Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most infamous FNAF fan games the community has ever seen. These are games that players constantly criticize, make fun of, and argue about, yet somehow they never completely disappear from the conversation. Some of these might be hated almost as much as they're remembered, so let's get into it.
Infamous FNAF fan games. I'm sure just saying that has already caused a few games to pop into mind. One Night at Flumpty's, Five Nights at Candy's, The Joy of Creation, Those Nights at Rachel's, and for some, another franchise comes to mind. One whose name is incredibly ironic, a game whose name is an emotion that everyone wishes to have, although the game causes nothing but the opposite. A game I truly cannot fathom the popularity of. Rest assured, the FNAF fan game series we're covering today is bad. Very bad. Join me today as I dive into Jolly, the FNAF fan game series that broke me. Strap in, because this is the longest video I have ever made. Opening into the first cutscene, we're greeted by the newspaper, reading that restaurants have been closing everywhere due to the new Circus Baby's Pizza World. Tying this game into the official FNAF lore, the owner of Jolly Entertainment claims he will be competing with Circus Babies. And let me tell you, this fuck-ass restaurant doesn't stand a goddamn chance. Anyways, moving on to gameplay. Jolly seemed to think it'd be an amazing idea to take all of the good mechanics from Five Nights at Freddy's and say, yeah, I could make this worse. To start, we have a large window and one door. You'll notice that each are powered by a typical light switch, which is probably one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. On top of our cameras, we have a maintenance panel which gives us access to our generator. Basically, we have 100% power, like normal, and the generator has 150% power. So if our power gets low, we can use the generator's power to charge our power through this maintenance panel. This mechanic seems a little useless to me, honestly. Why not just give us more power, or make our power last longer? Maybe just to give us another thing to distract us? I'm not totally sure. Your camera system is pretty bare bones. Jolly was made a long time ago. It's in the realm of series like Five Nights at Candy's in terms of age, so to an extent, I can forgive this game for being so dated. But rest assured, that doesn't mean I'm going to hold back on ripping it to shreds. Anyways, the cameras. I will give this game credit where it's due. The camera system actually has something I think is pretty cool. This game has 2 floors in the restaurant, with an elevator used to move from floor to floor. I'm not seeing any sight of stairs either, which I'm pretty sure is an OSHA violation just waiting to happen. You can see the camera of this elevator, and on it you can actually cause the elevator to change floors, meaning that if an animatronic rides the elevator up to your floor, you can quickly send the elevator back down, causing them to need to use another movement opportunity to move it back up. But don't get too excited about this mechanic, as it is completely obsolete when I start talking about how stupidly fucking hard this game is for no reason whatsoever. So let's talk about Night 1, which starts off strong by introducing 2 characters, Tweety and George. Tweety uses the elevator to get to your office. If you watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black, you'll be able to see me get plenty of enjoyment sending her stupid ass back downstairs every time she tried to come up to my floor. Oh, she didn't like that. She didn't like that I switched the elevator at all. Once she arrives at your office, you'll be able to see her in your window. Now pause. I want you to take a long look at this office. Notice how the window is literally nowhere near the fucking door? Yeah? So let me ask you, if you saw an animatronic in this window, would you ever, in a million years, think you need to close the door right when you see them? No? Well, you see, that's exactly what I thought too. But guess what, retard? You're completely wrong. For some reason, God knows why, the developer decided that this window was going to act like the windows from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, except neglecting the fact that the only reason the windows from FNAF 1 worked was because the window was directly next to the door, so it felt like there was no time before the character would arrive in your office. This game, that doesn't work, because you've placed the door a whole fucking football field in distance away from the window, so I'd have zero reason to think the animatronic currently staring at me would blow up my butthole like a Nachos Bel Grande. This is dumb, this is bad, really fucking bad. But whatever, really. Once you eventually figure out that's how this mechanic works, it should be pretty simple, right? Just close the door and wait for them to go away. Well, yes, exactly. Close the door and wait approximately, I don't know, 400 years. Because the rate at which these stupid robots move away from your door is pretty much zero. It'd probably be faster to just sit in one spot and wait to die, honestly. But whatever, eventually they'll leave and then you're free to open your door. Except, psych moron, since this one took so long to leave, another robot is at your window again! Yay! And who's at your window? Well, probably George. George? How'd you get here? George moves through your camera vents. You'll notice on the vent cams that you'll be able to seal the vent to prevent the animatronics from moving through them. But those probably don't work as you'd expect them to. Let's migrate for a second and talk about Five Nights at Freddy's 3. In that game, when Springtrap enters your vent, you can seal it off, which in that instance, Springtrap's neurons start firing and send a message to the body saying, "Hey, let's get out of this vent. Clearly, we're unable to continue moving forward." Not in Jolly. There are no neurons to fire in these robots' heads. In their mind, they're just thinking, "Vent was open minute ago. Why no vent open now? I wait until vent open again, then I continue move." Yeah, that's right. The animatronics will never leave the vents after you seal them. So sealing them really acts more like a stalling system, except closing the vents drains your power, and because of that, it makes closing your vents literally fucking pointless. So basically, if you haven't been paying attention thus far, George crawls through your vents no matter what you do and eats your balls like a sirloin steak. Fantastic. It wouldn't be a FNAF game without a music box-like mechanic, now would it? Of course not. And rest assured, this game has one too, using a character by the name of Antoinette. Antoinette appears on camera 11 tied up in some wires. You'll see a graphic on this camera referencing 4 wires holding Antoinette in place. Every once in a while, one of these wires holding him back will break and you'll have to repair it, which takes around, 900 decades. If all of the wires break, he'll eat your butt. You'll realize, especially on later nights, that a wire is broken on this guy pretty much constantly, so you'll barely have any time to peel your eyes away from the cameras to work on other things. But realistically, I personally had no problems dealing with Antoinette throughout my playthrough, which by the way, you can check out on my second channel, Dxtr Black. That's 2 plugs and we're just getting started. This is a long video, so sit your ass down. It also wouldn't be a game I fucking hate without post-night minigames that serve no purpose other than to be annoying. So let's talk about them. The post-night 1 minigame has you play as Jolly. All you have to do is walk into parts and service where you watch Antoinette go on an elevator and the minigame ends. That's it. Wasn't that just awful? Well, get ready because they're only going to get worse from here. Night 2. What new ass does this bring out? Well, do you remember George? The guy I talked about like 2 minutes ago? Well, Night 2 brings on Maxie. Why did I bring up George? Well, because Maxie is literally just George. She moves into the vent, then to your window. The only difference? Maxie is more aggressive than George is. And George is already pretty damn aggressive, so hearing that was amazing news for me. You know, I think I'd rather grind my ass on a cheese grater than worry about this stupid game that I hate so much. Night 2 post-night minigame time! In this minigame, we play as Jolly again. You, once again, walk into the parts and service room and see Antoinette tied up in wires. At the bottom of the screen, text appears stating, "It's okay." After that, you walk out of the room and you're attacked by an employee and the minigame ends. Riveting gameplay, what can I say? Night 3 brings on the big boy himself, Jolly. And I mean big boy. This dude is round as fuck. You push this guy over and his ass is gonna roll for a long time. He is incredibly boring, much like this entire game. He goes to the elevator and then to your window. He's literally just Tweety, but less aggressive, and seems to sit at your door for about 4 times as long, which is great because Tweety already sits there for ages. Something interesting about Jolly though, if you don't close the door in time, instead of killing you, he'll stand in your doorway looking at you, blocking you from closing the door using his astronomically sized belly. This motherfucker uses the asteroid belt to keep his pants up. Fat piece of shit robot. Night 3's post-night minigame. Is it fun? No. In this one, you play as Jolly. Surprise, surprise. A bunch of kids are standing around, so we quickly vacate the area because the only thing that scares me more than women are children. I hate children. We have to go to the kitchen. Inside, we see the employee from the last minigame who fucked our shit up. Except this time, he just fucks our shit up again. Aren't you getting so much lore and useful information from these minigames? What? You're not? Well, I can't say I'm surprised because these minigames are more useless than a white crayon. Nights 4 and 5 literally add nothing new to the central gameplay loop, so let's just talk about their post-night minigames. Night 4's minigame has you play as Tweety. Just kidding, you play as Jolly. You once again have to go to the kitchen. This time, the employee is preparing a meal. Once you move to the party room where you started, you get your shit rocked by the employee. Why? I have no idea. I guess this guy just hates us. Why he doesn't just destroy us is beyond me if we're causing him this much grief. Night 5's post-night minigame is actually a bit different. We play in the perspective of Jolly, seemingly dismantled in the kitchen. After looking around and being useless for a bit, text appears at the top of the screen that states, "Look at what you've done." And the minigame comes to an end. Something different, finally. Took long enough. But what does this tell us? Well, a whole lot of nothing, really. There's clearly a story being told somewhere here, but I can't for the life of me figure out what it is quite yet. Night 6 is nothing new, just hard as fuck. Really, the strategy in this game boils down to flash the light, wait, flash the light, wait, fix Antoinette when needed, and close the door when needed. Incredibly boring, not fun, a lot of RNG required because all the characters decide they want to forget how to walk once they reach our fucking window. But that's really all Jolly 1 has to offer. This game is incredibly fucking hard. I really didn't spend a lot of time talking about how difficult it is, but dear God, it is really unenjoyable to play. You can see my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But now, let's move from a game that's way too hard to a game that's way too easy. Jolly 2. That's right, baby. Everybody give cheers for video game balancing. Hip hip. Jolly 2 takes place on a cargo ship, where the animatronics are being moved to a different location. For some reason, we're also here, guarding the cargo. From what? Pirates? I have no fucking idea. This is such an odd plot point. I actually think it's kinda cool. Too bad the rest of the game is a snooze fest though. Let's talk about it. Night 1 introduces classic George and Bonnie. That's right. For some reason, this game is mixing in its own characters with the official FNAF characters. It's like a fan fiction, but in game form. And awful. Both in your cameras and on your left and right doors, you'll find a shock button. This button can be used to shock the animatronics. Can you believe it? When you shock an animatronic, it will cause them to go into a system reboot. Who really cares what it does? It makes them piss off, so use it when it makes sense. One extra thing to note is that the shock on the cameras is less effective than the ones at your doors, so the camera shock is really used to stall animatronics from reaching your doors, since the shocks on your doors have a very long cooldown time. Want to hear something really cool? Well, the cooldown wasn't enough to keep this game interesting. So what was added to keep the game just as uninteresting and even more fucking annoying as possible was the addition of 4 leaky pipes found behind you. Every once in a while, one of these pipes will start leaking gas. When the gas is leaking, you can't use your shocks. Wanna guess why? Because the gas will cause the shock to travel to you. That literally does not make any fucking sense at all. While yes, gas can conduct electricity, given the wide space of moving electrons, the power that travels through the gas would be nowhere near powerful enough to cause any meaningful harm to us. But screw it. Whatever, sure. Let's imagine that does make sense. When one of these pipes is leaking, all you have to do is turn around and click it. That's it. Jesus Christ, you might as well have just not even bothered adding this mechanic because it can be solved in 2 seconds. Did not make this game more interesting at all. Anyways, the animatronics, how about those guys? Oh yeah, George and Bonnie. George moves around the cameras, meanders into your vents, which thankfully this time don't have a useless ceiling mechanic, and then reaches your left door. When he's there, shock that bitch. Easy. Bonnie is much the same, except he attacks your right door instead. Very boring, I don't care. Oh wait, wanna hear something super crazy, fun, and silly? You can't see the animatronics when they're at your door. Can you hear them? No! What you have to do is constantly be watching the cameras, which is something I actually think this game does really well. It forces you to watch the cameras without a stupid fucking music box mechanic. Characters never move backwards in Jolly 2, so if a character is at a corner door camera one moment and then the next they're not, that means they're at your door and you need to shock them. Don't think I'm going to start gushing over this game. This watching cameras mechanic was done well. The rest of everything else ever was not. Night 2 introduces Chica. She's actually pretty interesting, except the funny part is that I just lied, because she's actually not interesting in the slightest. All she does is travel to the middle of the map and then attack your left door like George. This is some I got the right answer but used the wrong formula animatronic.
How the fuck did you get that answer? No, it's the right answer, but you didn't use my method, you little fucking shit. I'll tell you what you've done. Essentially, you've just shit in my fucking mouth. Do you like shitting in people's mouths, you little freak?
Oh hey, I should probably mention the post-night plush trap style minigame, shouldn't I? After each night, you'll be able to play a minigame called Time to Sleep with Foxy, which, by the way, is the only time he makes an appearance in this game. Time to Sleep consists of you attempting to take a nap in the cargo ship, but Foxy thinks it would be really funny to tickle your feet and make you squeal. While you sit on your bed, your sleep meter will increase. However, you'll be able to see 2 entrances to your room where Foxy can attack. If you listen closely, you'll be able to hear him moving on either side. When you do, you'll have to go over to that door and flash your light at him. Note, when you're not on your bed, your sleep meter decreases, and Foxy is pretty damn aggressive, so have fun never making progress in your entire life. If you manage to beat the minigame in time, you get to skip the first 2 hours of the next night, and this is crucial. Not because the nights are hard, but because they're so incredibly fucking boring I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than play them ever again. Night 3 brings along Freddy. Spoiler alert, he's boring. Kind of. He at least does something a little different. Rather than attack one of your doors, he can attack either. It's still the same method of stopping him, but he can just choose to attack either door, so I guess that's progress into being interesting land. Nothing else much more to note here, pretty boring overall. I will say it's on this night that using your camera shock to stall the characters starts to become useful, so I guess that's something. Night 4 introduces the man, the myth, the literal wrecking ball of a robot, classic Jolly.
Brother, this guy stinks!
Jolly does something crazy that actually makes this game pretty fun. Psych! Moron, I fucking lied. All he does is attack your right door exactly like every other animatronic does. Somehow, the main character of the game is less interesting than one of the others, which is just crazy to me that you could even make that happen. Nights 5 and 6 are just harder versions of Night 4, with nothing changing. Oh, and also, they're still not very hard at all, so that's cool. Well, I guess all that's left to talk about are the post-night minigames. Dexter, haven't you already talked about Time to Sleep? Well, yes, I have. However, this game also added in stupid boring ass shit 8-bit minigames just like the first game, except somehow managed to make them even more boring. Let's talk about them. Night 1's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom, where in this universe he would presumably kill them, rather than in the back room like in the actual game. Why this detail is changed even though they're adding their story to the original is beyond me. Night 2's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 3's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Night 4's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into the bathroom. Are you getting sick of this yet? Night 5's post-night minigame has you playing as a security guard from Freddy Fazbear's, attempting to stop Afton from luring a kid into a bathroom. Wasn't this segment totally worth your time? No? Well, you watched it anyways. So basically, if your brain doesn't work, Afton killed the kids. Wow, shocker. I would have never been able to figure that out without your expert opinion game. Thank you. There is a true ending in this game, however. If you die on night 5, 6, or go to the extras menu and click a small Jolly sprite in the corner, you'll be brought to a minigame exactly like Sister Location, where you have to strategically throw burgers into the mouths of some fat-ass kids. After that, you can collect a bonus hamburger and go to the second floor of the minigame and stand on an invisible platform. After that, jump to the right side of the screen and you'll be teleported to a new minigame. In this new minigame, you'll find a girl in a pink shirt crying like a bitch. Once she sees Jolly, she hugs him, but Afton quickly grabs her and we cut to a cutscene where we're in front of an arcade machine slowly panning out, and the game ends, giving you the true ending. What have I gathered from this? Well, in one of the post-night minigames, we see that it's Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, which I'm pretty sure has never been an event that has ever taken place at a restaurant in history. But I'm gonna take a solid guess that the girl that hugged Jolly in the final minigame was the daughter of the security guard we've been playing as. This game is really pulling at my heartstrings, guys. But that's all Jolly 2 has to offer. This game is somehow marginally worse than the first, which I think deserves a medal because after playing the first game, I didn't think that was possible. Jolly 2 is so incredibly easy that you could probably beat it blindfolded. None of the mechanics are engaging in any way, and the story in no way makes up for the gameplay shortcomings. Overall, it's a very terrible game that I don't think you should ever play in a million years. Let's move on to the final game in the series, which unfortunately for me is broken up into 2 chapters, so it's borderline 2 more games I have to cover, and I'm not excited at all, because it's these 2 games that really began to break me. Jolly 3 Chapter 1, aka Where the Rage Begins. How do I even begin? Well, I suppose I should start at the beginning. That would probably make the most sense. The game begins with a cutscene of a car driving to a factory and our player running inside. With a zoom in on a broken Jolly animatronic, his eyes light up, letting us know he's ready to open up a can of whoop ass on us. In this game, our goal is to go into an abandoned Jolly factory and grab some artifacts, which makes it sound like this is about to be like Indiana Jones. However, while those movies are great, this game is not. Loading into this game's control room, which acts as the office, I'm immediately greeted to the shitty fucking smell of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. What do I mean by that? Well, open your eyes and take a look at this office. Does this not look at all slightly familiar to you? If it doesn't, then you're stupid or have never seen Sister Location before, because this office is pretty much identical to the control room from Sister Location, with 2 large windows on each side of us that can be lit up via a light button and an exit directly in front of us. In Sister Location, it was a vent. In this game, it's a giant door. Flashing our lights, on the left we can see Tweety, and on the right we can see either Maxie or George. I'm pretty sure this is Maxie, since I'm pretty sure the animatronic that sits next to Jolly on the cameras is George, but it could be the other way around. Also in the office is a big lever. Pulling it will release gas from the pipes on the ceiling. That gas fries animatronics. Oh boy, can you take a guess where this is going? That's right, this game is about to mix elements of Sister Location, which is terrible, and the stand in your office mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 2, which is also pretty terrible. We're already set up for a great time. But I can't go any further without complaining about one of the worst things to ever come out of any game literally ever designed by anyone, the Click Team mouse. More specifically, the Sister Location Click Team mouse. If you've ever played Sister Location, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've only ever seen people play this game and Sister Location, let me fill you in on the horrible experience that it is. Click Team Fusion, the engine used to create most FNAF fan games and every official FNAF game up until Ultimate Custom Night, has a few interesting quirks that almost every game that uses them suffers from. The main problem is in games like Five Nights at Freddy's games that try to fake a 3D effect by having you look back and forth. A lot of the time, especially in Sister Location, you'll be able to see weird distortions on the side of the screen, making the entire game look like it's shaped like a fucking cylinder. And because of this, the mouse has a pretty significant and horrendous issue. While you look from side to side in the office, since we're not actually in a 3D space and what we're looking at is actually just a 2D image being warped to appear 3D, you'll notice that as the mouse hits the exact center of the screen, it looks like the mouse gets locked on the X-axis, and as soon as the screen reaches the end of the 2D image, it looks like the mouse unlocks and can continue to move freely. While I say the mouse is, quote, locked, it actually really isn't. It's moving just as freely as it would when it's on the sides of the screen. But because we're faking a 3D environment in an engine that can't natively do 3D, it leads to this awkward and janky mouse movement that not only looks weird, but feels even weirder. I cannot fucking stand this mouse. I hated Sister Location for it, and I hate Jolly for it even more, because this game is already just hot dog shit ass as it is. But anyways, back to actually talking about the gameplay. Using this gas lever drains our gas. No shit. Where else were you thinking it went? In our cameras, we can open up a special menu, and in this menu, we can refill this gas supply. Where is the gas coming from? Fuck you, that's where. Also on the cameras, you'll see a fan meter. Each camera has its own fan. If the fan ever breaks, which trust me, they will be doing very frequently, your vision will begin to go dark and you will die unless you fix them. Fixing them is easy. There's actually a repair fan button right on each camera. But how do you tell which camera's fan is broken when there's an error? I'm sure you could take a pretty solid guess, and you'd probably be right. You just have to check every single fucking camera until you find the right one. And this will be incredibly annoying due to a character I'll talk about in a minute, but that character is not active on night 1. So who is? There are only 3 characters active on night 1. 3 may sound like a lot for a first night, but one of them is kind of different, so we'll cover him first. In case you have forgotten, Jolly has injected itself into the official game's lore, so all of the original FNAF animatronics are here again, just like in Jolly 2. Metal Foxy is active on night 1. Why are the FNAF characters called metal? I don't really know. Were they not metal before? I have no clue. If at any point one of your camera fans completely breaks, Foxy will appear in the darkness and kill you. That's all he does. I don't know why Jolly hates giving Foxy actual in-night mechanics, but whatever. One character I really don't ever have to worry about, and I actually never even saw because I'm just so goddamn good at gaming. Which, by the way, you can see on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Also, fuck it, while I'm shilling the black channel, go subscribe to my third channel, Dxtr Blue, too. You've made it this far in the video, so you must be enjoying my rambling at least a little bit, and I do a bunch of that over on Dxtr Blue. Over there, I play any games that aren't Five Nights at Freddy's related, so I encourage you to go check it out. Thanks. Back to the cesspool. Another character introduced on this night is Withered Tweety. Withered Tweety is as boring as a character can get. She pisses around on the cameras and eventually jumps headfirst into your office to give you head. But pause. Think, dumbass. It's a robot. Don't have intercourse with it. It's not even a hot robot, so I don't even know why you'd want to anyways. Once she's in your office, just spray some gas on her and she'll leave. The final character introduced on this night is Withered Maxie. She does literally the exact same thing Tweety does. Meanders around the camera and eventually wanders her way into your office. Same shit, different suit, really. Spray her with some of your liquid hot ass gas and she'll run out of the room holding your nose because you smell like shit. As much as I'd love to just start talking about night 2 in order to get this shit over with as fast as possible, we unfortunately have some sister location level bullshit ass minigames to talk about that take place between each night. So let's talk about the first night's fuck ass minigame. The whole point of these minigames is to find these relics that we came to this building looking for. Throughout this game, we're talking to a guy named Theo over the phone, who instead of coming into the building with us to help out, decided he'd rather be a pussy bitch and just call us on the phone the whole time like a clingy girlfriend. Theo leads us into test room 1 and tells us to find a locked safe. After doing so, the security system in the room goes off, and of course, the animatronics are a part of that system. And of course, Tweety is in the room with us. Theo tries to hack the safe but can't, so he sends us a program on our phone that we can use to force the security system off and then use to crack the safe. And for some reason, this program has us play some fuck-ass minigame instead of actually being useful. The goal of this game is to pulse electricity from one door to another, and guide that electricity by using arrows. Every time you click on a square, it creates an arrow, and subsequent clicks turn that arrow 90 degrees. You get it, the idea is simple. So why am I complaining? Well, you see these 20 dots on the left side of your screen? Yeah? You have to do this fuck-ass shit 20 goddamn times. And what makes this take even longer than it already would take? Tweety. Tweety works similarly to Funtime Freddy in his minigame from Sister Location, wherein, while you're trying to play the minigame, Tweety slowly creeps towards you. Every once in a while, you'll have to drop your phone and flash your lights at her over and over again until she goes away. Want to hear the best part? She's voice acted, just like Sister Location, and she only has about 3 fucking lines. And since this minigame takes so long to complete, you can bet your ass we're going to hear each line about 30 times. Doesn't this just sound like a blast? But after you complete all 20 randomly generated puzzles, the security system shuts off and we're free to continue on to night 2. However, before I begin talking about this night, I want to make something clear about the metal animatronics. I do not know exactly what nights they will be introduced for certain. The wiki doesn't inform me, and I don't feel like surfing through hours of Jolly footage just to figure it out. I'll take a guess on the metal animatronics, but keep in mind it might be wrong. The non-official FNAF characters, I do know. Just thought I'd put that out there before we continue. Just kidding! There's still a shitty post-night 8-bit minigame to talk about first. Don't you just hate being alive? In this minigame, we play as a guy named Eric who just got a job at the Jolly restaurant. We're shown around by our boss and told specifically not to go in this room. Afterwards, we go right into that room and get threatened by our boss on the first day. Wonderful. Oh, also, if you walk out of bounds, you can find Antoinette just kind of fucked everywhere on the walls. Anyways, now we can talk about Night 2. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, George and Metal Chica. Let's get George out of the way because he's the most boring. Can you guess how he works? If you said exactly the same as Tweety and Maxie but with a different movement pattern, then you'd be correct. Moves around the cameras, enters your office, spray him with gas, and he pisses off. Repeat. Now we can talk about the most annoying fucking character in this whole game. Earlier, I mentioned that there was a character that in combination with your broken fan problem becomes incredibly infuriating. Metal Chica is that very character. Metal Chica has a random chance to appear on a camera every time you switch cameras or open your camera. She's basically the same as Phantom Balloon Boy from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, except with one key annoying difference. When you see Phantom Balloon Boy in Five Nights at Freddy's 3, all you have to do is either close your camera or switch cameras to avoid his attack. Nope, not Metal Chica, she sucks more than your mom. When you see her on your cameras, your only option is to close the cameras. If you just switch cameras, even though she's disappeared from your sight, she will still jump scare you. This may seem like such a small thing to bitch about. Oh, Dxtr, you're just nitpicking. It's not really that bad. Fuck you. Yes, it is. I guarantee that if you've played FNAF games before, you've grown accustomed to mechanics just like this. And for some reason, this is the only one that doesn't let you just switch cameras to avoid it. So I guarantee you'll have built up some muscle memory that will lead to you just to switch cameras. But guess what, fucker? That doesn't work anymore. No, it's not hard, but do you know how annoying it is to try and break that habit of just switching cameras? It's a bitch. And of course, when there's a broken fan, you have to already quickly swap between cameras at light speed. So you'll already have your muscles set on focusing on switching cameras as fast as possible to find the broken one. Oh, were you focused on watching the repair fan button that you didn't notice Metal Chica was on one of your cameras for a fraction of a fucking second? Well, guess what? Even though you looked at her for no time at all, get jump scared, dickhead. Ivan G, fuck you for this dumbass mechanic right here. However, there is one small redeemable thing about getting jump scared by any metal animatronic that isn't Foxy, and that's that you won't lose the night, just like the Phantoms from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Instead, your gas system will just fucking break, and you'll have to repair it on your cameras and then completely refill your gas, which on early nights isn't a big deal. But on later nights, it does become a small problem because of how frequently animatronics will be in your office drooling all over you. Alright, let's talk about the next bullshit post-night scavenger hunt for goodies. On this night, you actually have the option of picking 2 different rooms. You'll eventually have to go to the other one anyways though, so I'll just go over which one I chose on this night. I chose to go into Maxie's room, which is a mistake I will regret for the rest of my life, because this section is fucking brutal. Same deal as last time. Find a safe, trigger the security alarm, do some bullshit on your phone while defending yourself from an animatronic. The difference? Well, the thing you have to do on your phone this time is actually more AIDS than AIDS itself. You will be sent lines of code by Theo to build a program that will shut down the system's firewall so that Theo can hack the security system and the safe, even though he's already done this exact thing once before. The lines of code are case sensitive, and you will only have a certain amount of time to write each line before it refreshes and you have to start all over. So if you're not a fast typer, then I'm sorry, this will be a challenge for you. I have no idea exactly how many lines you need to type, but if I had to guess, it would probably be somewhere in the ballpark of between 20 and 30. This is bullshit. Maxie will be attacking you the whole time. Defending yourself is easy, just put your phone down and stare at her. The problem? She takes forever to move, and the timer on your phone will still be counting down. This minigame takes so goddamn fucking cocksucking long to complete. I think it took me probably a solid 20 minutes to finish on my first playthrough, which you can find on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I'm so fucking drained, guys, you don't understand what this series is doing to me, and writing this script, having to relive my trauma that I had thought I had put behind me is absolutely brutal. So please, let's just move on. After completing that bullshit, we move on to the Night 2 post-night minigame 8-bit minigame. Did you catch all that? I don't really care. Let me tell you, this minigame isn't a minigame, it's just a cutscene. Eric is bringing his daughter to work with him, and if you remember, this is an event that happened in one of the 8-bit minigames from Jolly 2. Eric walks into the building and very quickly walks back out to tell his daughter Zoe to not enter the building. He doesn't explain why, but begs her to stay in the car before re-entering the building. And that's where the minigame ends. You know, sometimes when I'm playing a game, I think, wow, this gameplay is truly unrivaled by any other game I've ever played. This game is not one of those games, by the way. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters that I hate, Metal Bonnie and Metal Freddy. Metal Freddy is less rage baity, so let's talk about him first. Metal Freddy has a chance to appear in your office at any time. When he does, all you have to do is flip up the camera within 3 seconds and he'll go away. If you don't, he'll jump scare you and fuck your gas system, which again, can be a huge problem on later nights given how often someone will be in your office. Now, let's talk about Metal Bonnie, and why I hated him so fucking much until I discovered the mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy. Metal Bonnie has a chance to appear in your windows every time you flash your light in them. If he appears anytime you do this, he will immediately jump scare you and fuck your gas supply. In a FNAF game where lights are always a crucial mechanic, this may sound brutal, but you haven't heard about my mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy yet. Basically, the way you perform the mega ultimate epic ass Metal Bonnie strategy is just by not flashing your lights ever. Yeah, forgot to mention that this is literally a worthless mechanic, because you never need to see out of these windows to ever progress through the night at all. It took me an embarrassingly long time to figure that out, and you can see how stupid I was in my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have done it and I did it. I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it was a possibility and I did it anyways. Now, after beating that night, we can talk about the lovely Night 3 post-night minigame. So which door are we gonna pick here? Let's do this one. Oh fuck, what the dick? Okay, well, we just got jumped and ganked by Antoinette. What the hell happened? Wait, where are we? Oh shit, we're on a conveyor belt or something. It's at this moment some random bitch starts talking at us.
What brings you here? In this harmonious place of ours?
Apparently, she knows we're stealing, and she's about to F us in the A. The conveyor belt turns on and we start getting moved towards a giant fucking spiky crusher that would never under any circumstance ever be in a factory. We're shown we have to rapidly spam the up and down arrows on our keyboard to stop ourselves from dying. When I tell you that you have to spam fast as fuck, I mean it. However fast you think you can spam, I bet it's just barely fast enough. If you stop for even a fraction of a second, you will launch towards that crusher at fucking Mach 25. And how long do you have to spam for? 2 full minutes. 2 full minutes of pressing 2 keys quite literally as fast as you can without ever slowing in your tempo even once. I'm shaking as fuck. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. I'm shitting myself on this motherfucking conveyor belt right now, bro. Don't make me do it. I'll short my pants on this fucking conveyor belt. On God, I swear to God. Fuck me, I'm gonna die. I'm dead as fuck. Say goodbye to my children. I don't have children. Children suck. Fuck, I'm shitting my pants and pissing them too. I'm so sorry. Oh my God, fuck, I'm gonna die as fuck. I'm shitting myself. It's all down to my shoes and my socks. It's all stuck in my This right here is the worst fucking thing throughout this entire series. It truly does not get worse than this. My arms fucking hurt badly after finishing this section. It actually took me 2 attempts because I couldn't do it for long enough on my first try. This shit sucks, and it sucks hard. People say that Jolly 3 Chapter 1 is the best game in the franchise. They're fucking wrong. This is actually the worst shit I've ever played through in my entire life. I would rather sandpaper my ball sack than ever touch this stupid shit ass section ever again. Now, after that disaster, does the Night 3 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame do anything that's interesting? Well, yes, actually it does. I was pleasantly surprised at how interesting this minigame actually was. In it, we play as Zoe, who, like a rebel, disobeys her dad and enters the building anyways. It's incredibly dark inside, and after a bit of wandering, she's captured by Eric's boss, who, by the way, was William Afton if you couldn't guess. We're shown Zoe crying in a dark room, and we hear the dialogue between William, who's in the dark back room, and Eric, who's locked outside. Inside of the back room along with Zoe are 4 other children, and we get to hear William argue with Eric as he brutally murders all 4 children, leaving Zoe for last, and forcing Eric to listen and watch as his daughter is murdered in front of his eyes. This is some of the most demented shit I've ever seen. But I actually think it's really cool. Not often in FNAF games do we ever get this close to seeing the terrible acts committed by the villains. And while no, I'm not eager to watch child murder, I think portraying it through these 8-bit minigames is a great way to let the game get serious without actually showing anything horrendously vile. Good job, Jolly. This cutscene is actually really cool, and I can appreciate that. But let's get back to the shit show. Night 4 introduces Jolly himself. Can you guess what he does? Fuck you, he just walks into your office, gas him and he's gone. Yes, every single non-metal character in this game acts exactly the same way. I'm not kidding, they're all identical, just with different patterns for how they get around the map. This is actually such garbage gameplay, I don't really have anything to compare it to. It's just embarrassing and a spit in the face to the player. Want a cherry on top? Jolly is the last character introduced in this game, which means Night 5 is going to be the same repetitive bullshit, but just with some more RNG. Aren't you excited? Now, for the post-night minigame, we finally get to go into the room we tried to get into last night, and the room I chose again could have been chosen on Night 2. If you chose this room, you'd be forced into the maxi room on this night. This one is really easy. All you do is find the safe and type in the code Theo gives you. That's it. No security fuck up, just typing in the code and you're home free. The only thing is that the lights to the room turn off and you get a long ass monologue from the girl who tried to squish you to death in the previous night. It's just the typical, "You don't understand our pain" bullshit you've heard 1,000 times before. When the lights turn back on, you can see the faces of the 4 main animatronics, implying that the soul in Jolly is Zoe, Eric's daughter. Zoe tells us to fix the past so history doesn't repeat itself, and then we're free to continue without any bullshit minigame that makes me want to rip my foreskin into pieces and throw them into the air like confetti. The Night 4 post-night minigame, post-minigame, 8-bit minigame consists of Eric on a boat, which I can only guess is the cargo ship from Jolly 2. We have to dodge guards' flashlights to stay out of their sight, and eventually jump into the back of an unmarked van. Which, by the way, I would never suggest anybody do because that's just a terrible idea. But after that, the minigame is over and we can move on. And please, dear God, let us move on because I'm starting to run out of steam here. Before we begin Night 5, Theo calls us and tells us he wants us to grab a fucking animatronic out of the factory and bring it with us. Are you fucking serious right now? You want me to grab one of the fucking murder robots? Are you out of your fucking mind? I think you're crazy. Eat my ass. I'm gonna do it anyways though, so I guess let's just get through the 5th night. I'm not gonna bore you by talking about it because again, it's just a more RNG bullshit version of Night 4, so let's not waste any time and talk about what happens after you beat it. After completing Night 5, we head back to the Octagon and get a call from Theo. He thinks there might be an unactivated animatronic somewhere deeper in the factory. He apologizes and said that he knows we're tired, but to think about all of the money and recognition we'll get if we can pull this off. This seems like the most classic case of manipulation I've ever seen. But even knowing that, let's continue to fall for it every single time anyways. It's what happens in every single relationship, right? And hey, if we've all made it through one of those, what's stopping us from doing it one more time in Jolly? But this is where Jolly 3 Chapter 1 ends, with us heading deeper into the factory on the hunt for an animatronic to take back with us. Will this end up working out for us? We'll find out next week in the next Dxtr White video. No, I'm just kidding. We're finishing this up now. All right, let's wrap this shit up, huh? Jolly 3 Chapter 2 continues directly after Chapter 1. Who would have thought? We travel down an elevator into the Jolly Entertainment underground facility in search of a deactivated animatronic. Theo marks a spot on our map, and we actually get to travel around the building much like the movement system in A Shadow Over Freddy's, which by the way is a game I've covered on this channel on Dxtr White. You should watch that video after you watch this one. And fuck it, subscribe to Dxtr Black and Dxtr Blue because this video is sucking my soul out of my body right now. Anyways, after arriving at a door, we scan a key card we have, and a robot tells us that we don't have access and to, quote, return to our quarters, intern. This audibly confuses Theo and reveals that we are playing as someone who has previously worked for Jolly Entertainment. And if I had to guess who, my money would be on Eric being our main character throughout the games. After a bit more exploring, we enter a security office, and a tape begins to play from the CEO of Jolly Entertainment, teaching us how to be night guards. We're told that we'll be put to the test before getting the job, and that he's placed 2 deadly robots in the building to defend ourselves from. Really? This is how you test your interns? Fuck, I see why we quit. But whatever. Instead of letting him explain it, I'm going to explain it because I'm the YouTuber, and it would seem lazy if I just played the phone call out in its entirety, no matter how badly I want to do that so that I don't have to write about this fuck-ass game any longer. Let's get the biggest elephant out of the room, the camera system. This camera system is like nothing I've ever seen in a FNAF game ever, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like it. It took me a bit to get used to it, but it's actually pretty cool. The cameras are split up into 4 quarters. Clicking on any of them will zoom in and give you a normal looking FNAF camera map, but with only 3 to 4 buttons on each. Meaning if you want to check on another camera, you have to exit the quarter you're in and select another one. I feel like this makes the pressure of going through the cameras just a bit more interesting and tense, and I think that's something these games have been missing, so good job, Jolly. Anyways, there are only 2 animatronics that can actually end your night in this entire game, and go figure, they're both active on night 1. These characters are Jolly and George. You'll notice in this game that Jolly has taken his head off, and a skinned human head can be seen in its place. Just something Sigma I thought I'd bring up, but yes, this is Jolly. Both characters act the same way, just attacking different doors in your office. Once they get to your office, you'll have to jam their signal. Fun fact, you can tell George is at your office by his glowing eyes like he's straight out of Five Nights at Candy's, so dealing with him is super easy. Jolly, however, is a bit of a tricky one. You cannot see his eyes at the door. So how do you know he's there? Now's a good time to talk about the maintenance panel located behind you. If you turn around, you'll find this panel, and it has 3 tabs located on it. Let's talk about the jammer tab first since I've already mentioned it. Going to the jammer tab, you'll be able to activate the jammer. Damn, did you need a PhD to figure that one out, fuckface? When Jolly or George is at your door, you have to use the jammer to make them go away. But then the jammer has to recharge, which takes a pretty long damn time. If you ever use the jammer when nobody is at your door, the cooldown will last even longer, so really make sure you know where everyone is. I mentioned not being able to see Jolly at your door. Well, first of all, watching your cameras is important, so that'd probably help. Keeping your eyes on George isn't a big deal because you can see him, but Jolly is someone you're going to want to watch. He actually has 2 paths to your left door. The long way, aka the way you want him to go, and the short way, aka the way you don't want him to go. I'm sure you can guess why. Ding ding ding! Because of the jammer cooldown! Good job! Here, you get a cookie. Anyways, you can always double check where both George and Jolly are by using the radar tab on your maintenance panel. I'm sure you can guess what it does. It pings both of their locations on the map. This way you can tell for sure that Jolly is at your door if context clues on the camera aren't enough for you. However, every time you use the radar, there is an incredibly long cooldown, so only use it when you really can't find Jolly. But woohoo, you beat the night and we get to move on to the post-night 1 minigame, which by the way are way better than the post-night minigames from chapter 1. You'll be sat in front of a computer. You're tasked with decrypting 10 files each night, which each take a decent amount of time. However, while you're doing this, you'll be being attacked by Rusty Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Their mechanics are very easy. Every once in a while, you'll hear the sound of a door opening. When you hear it, you'll need to quickly turn around. You'll easily be able to tell which door has been opened, and you need to run over to that door and listen for breathing, just like Five Nights at Freddy's 4. If you hear breathing, you need to flash your light to scare the animatronic away and then lock the door. If you don't hear breathing, then all you need to do is lock the door without flashing your light. Then go back to decrypting. Decrypt all the files and you're home free. All of the animatronics act the same, by the way, so I'm not covering each of them here. Night 2 introduces 2 new characters, Shadow Tweety and Shadow Maxie. Shadow Maxie is not ass, so let's talk about her first. She is literally exactly the same as Metal Chica from chapter 1, spawning on a camera and fucking you up if you don't put the camera down, except she acts much like a shadow puppet from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where she'll fuck up your vision and stun you for a while if she jump scares you. So definitely don't let that happen or you will probably die. Shadow Tweety, on the other hand, is a dick. She will slowly start building herself in your office the longer you look forward. Turning around will make her slowly deconstruct. If she ever finishes building herself, she'll jump scare you and cause a ventilation error. Oh wait, shit, I didn't talk about errors. Just like Five Nights at Freddy's 3, you have 3 errors: ventilation, camera, and AC, all of which can happen at complete random, and you'll have to waste a bunch of time repairing them on your maintenance panel. Choosing not to fix any of them can obviously lead to some major issues, so how about you just do it, you little bitch? But that's really about it. Complete the night and you move on to the decryption minigame again, and then back to the night section. No new characters are ever added, it's just harder and harder every time. Same thing goes for the decryption minigame, so there's really not much more to talk about until the end of the 5th night. After completing the 5th night, we get a short cutscene letting us know we have passed the test and we can work here full time, which also explains why we have a keycard in the first place. Theo gives us a call and tells us that the oxygen system in the building has been tampered with. He gives us coordinates to the control room and we have to book it through the building to fix it. It's at this time I get to tell you about a bunch of fucking bullshit. This time, while roaming around the building, George is active and moving around too. And getting around him is the most fucked bullshit on the face of the earth. I literally don't know how to describe how to beat him because I really don't even know what I did. It seems like every single possible movement ends in a death. You have this hold your breath mechanic you're supposed to use, but there is no visual cue to let you know when you're safe to pass him. What you're supposed to do is hold your breath and wait, then exhale and walk past him. You might think, oh, hold your breath until he leaves. But he never leaves. He just stands there, menacingly, staring you down no matter what you do. If you don't hold your breath for just the right amount of time with literally no sign as to how long that's supposed to be, you're fucked and you have to listen to bitch-ass Theo's cutscene again. This took me a stupid amount of time to achieve, and it's honestly the most unenjoyable part of this chapter. But what happens if you get to the control room? Well, you get the misfortune of playing the most brutal and unforgiving night section this series has ever designed. The goal is to stabilize 10 rooms in the facility, but while this is happening, you're getting fucked by George and Jolly. In this office is a window and a door, just like the first Jolly game. You will have to check the light, and if someone is there, close the door until they leave. But here's the catch, you have a power system, and a power system that goes down so incredibly quickly it isn't even funny. When I tell you that you have to play this night perfectly, I'm not exaggerating. Checking the light is a bad idea. Instead, you should listen for sound cues to let you know a character has arrived. When you hear the sound cue, you shouldn't close the door right away because it'll waste too much power. So wait about 3 seconds and then close the door. If you've timed it right, you should very quickly hear them leave. When they leave, you should quickly check the light and open the door. The reason you need to check the light now is because the sound of a character leaving can actually cancel out the sound of one arriving, which is complete bullshit, by the way. And for every microsecond that you're not pressing the light button or the door button, you need to make damn sure you're stabilizing the rooms, because if you aren't for even a second, I promise that you will lose this night. I'm being so serious. You have to play this section perfectly. No mistakes, no misclicks. It is fucking brutal the whole fucking time. If you want to get a really good feel for how bad it is, you can check out my playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. But if you can manage to complete this fucking brutal section of the game, we can continue. Walking through the corridors of the factory, we enter an elevator. Following it down, we reach a massive room. And inside, we find the supposedly deactivated Springtrap animatronic, and Jolly comes to a close. Bad fan games. Love them or hate them, you have to admit they can be pretty funny at times. Maybe you like them because of the bad grammar, bad art, bad storytelling, bad voice acting, or just overall bad design. Well, if you're interested in that, rest assured the fan game we'll be covering today has a bit of all of those components, and I'm excited to share them with you. The game in question is Mario and Animatronic Horror. Made by two devs, it serves to be one of the most atrocious fan games ever designed, but it is, in all honesty, one of my favorites. I should note that this game is technically not possible to obtain legitimately and can only be found through websites like the Wayback Machine. This is because Nintendo is the most greedy, grubby company to ever cross this plane of existence. They DMCA'd this game for copyright infringement because it used their characters. So keep in mind, that means that what we're going to see is legally canonical. So enjoy that information as we go along. With that being said, let's jump into Mario and Animatronic Horror. If you're at all familiar with RPG Maker horror games, then a game called Mario the Music Box might ring a few bells to you. Another RPG Maker horror game that uses Mario that is actually pretty good. Let me know if you'd like me to cover it sometime in the future. Mario and Animatronic Horror was actually directly inspired by Mario the Music Box, and it definitely shows. However, as I already mentioned, Mario the Music Box is good, and this game, well... Starting the game, we're met to an anime opening for the game. This is where we first notice that the 3D animations in this game are actually surprisingly pretty solid, and are definitely the best parts of these games. But that's immediately downplayed when you use your ears and notice that the opening music is Panic at the Disco, which they also decided to name incorrectly in the credits, saying Panic on the Disco instead. Panic at the Disco? What is this anime opening? What am I watching? After that masterpiece of an opening finished, we're forced to remember that this is, in fact, a horror game, and we're greeted to an opening cutscene. Mario states that he has voices in his head, canonically revealing that Mario is a schizo. Because of these voices, he decides to get a job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Why does he choose this? I have no fucking idea. And with that, we're tossed right into night one. Mario walks into the pizzeria and has an amazing reaction to the animatronics on stage.
Mamma mia, those things are terrifying.
I love the dialogue in this game. If you ever play it yourself, you'll notice that what the voice actors say and what you see in the text boxes on screen almost never match at all. But if you don't feel like playing the game yourself, I totally understand. You can watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. Mario heads back to the office and receives a phone call from Phone Guy. You may think these phone calls will be important, but you'd be completely wrong. These phone calls are basically just the calls from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, except for some reason they didn't want to use the actual audio from the game, so instead they opted to hire a voice actor to read it, and I guess they also didn't just copy and paste the script from the game, but appeared to try their best to rewrite what was said from memory. I'm not sure what the thought process was here.
Hello? Hello? And welcome to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Magical place where grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun can come to life.
In this office is also where I found that this specific tile on the wall had no hitbox, so that's pretty cool. Okay. After the call, Mario was understandably scared from being told that animatronics would try to butt bang him and stuff him in a suit. We cut to a short cutscene from the animatronics who, lucky us, also speak. They talk about how familiar we look. Now, from hearing that, you'd probably think that this would be the same misunderstanding from the actual games, where they think we're William Afton because we're wearing the purple security guard suit. However, that wouldn't make sense because Mario is wearing his normal outfit, which the animatronics even acknowledge. So I have no idea where they got the crack they're snorting, but it was clearly laced. Freddy sends Bonnie to go get Mario from the office and give him a rim job. Mario decides to check the cameras and notices that Bonnie has left the stage. However, rather than using his head and checking the other cameras to see where he's at, Mario instead decides it would be a smarter idea if he went out of the office to go look for Bonnie himself. With that, Mario exits the office and begins exploring. Going near Pirate's Cove, Mario finds a key to the back room and sees a classic FNAF hallucination and sharts his pants.
Back room key.
Oh, what the fuck? With the back room key, he uses it to get into the back room. I don't really know what you expected to happen, but I guess it's a good thing I'm here to hold your hand and tell you these obvious things because you're too brainwashed. Here, maybe if I speak your language, you'll better understand me. Skibidi Riz Edge Mario goons on a Gaiac Goblin and gets rizzy with it. You understand me now? All right, let's keep moving. In the back room, Mario reads a newspaper clipping going over the missing children's case. It's not long, however, before Mario's ADHD kicks in and he gets bored and decides to leave. ADHD? More like ADHD's nuts, am I right?
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Alright. Anyways, when Mario goes to leave, he hears Bonnie approaching, and we get possibly the funniest line delivery I've ever heard in my life.
You can't hide from your buddy Bonnie. I'm gonna hug you till you burst.
Wasn't that the most amazing thing you've ever heard? Yeah, I bet it was. Mario figures it'd probably be a good idea to hide, and I would probably agree with him. This is where you get the first of many decisions.
When you make a choice, you could get wrong at your possible, and you could possible get killed. When you make a choice, the choice could wrong, and you could possible get killed.
Where are you going to hide? You can choose either the closet, under the table, or hiding in the Freddy suit on the table. Now, you may be inclined to hide in the most retarded area on the planet, but I would encourage you to not do that. Hiding in the closet is the correct option, but I guess I'll humor you and I'll tell you what happens if you choose the other two options. Let's start with the suit. If you choose to hide in the suit, Bonnie actually won't find you and will leave, which might lead one to believe they made the right decision. But for those of you who are familiar with the FNAF lore, which I imagine is all of you, you'd know that getting into a suit is a pretty bad idea, because Mario ends up getting stuck and spring-locked inside.
How'd you get in? Reverse engineer. And you're dead.
So good job, buddy. I don't even know why getting inside the suit was an option, given how scared Mario was of getting stuffed inside one. Choosing to hide under the table instead, you would not be surprised to find that Bonnie literally immediately sees you. Because, no shit, that should have been obvious. This is when he grabs you and we get to see another surprisingly good 3D animation, where Bonnie hits us in the dome with his guitar as hard as he can.
I found you.
Oh, damn! Oh, we're dead as fuck, boy. We're dead as fuck. You might think these animations were just found somewhere and imported into the game, but no. As far as I can tell, these animations are actually original to this game, which is actually pretty damn cool. Of course, the closet is the correct choice, so Mario hides in there like a normal person would.
Yeah, being gay is pretty safe.
Bonnie begins walking around the back room, and even though we hear his footsteps, we're given the choice to peek out. Of course, Mario chooses not to do that because he isn't stupid, and Bonnie eventually does leave, and Mario re-emerges from the closet. As Mario exits the closet, a rusty crowbar appears out of nowhere on the floor and Mario takes it. Heading back to Pirate's Cove, he uses it to open up a crate.
Come on, you stupid crowbar!
Inside the crate, he finds the kitchen key. Now, I think we all know where the kitchen is in the first FNAF game location. This game thought it would be funny to actually not put the kitchen there and instead put it right next to Pirate's Cove. Once in the kitchen, Mario finds a family photo. This is where I should mention the lore of this game sort of follows the original FNAF games, but also says, fuck it, I'm gonna do what I want. This photo seems to show off the Afton family, And you already know Mario decides he needs to pocket that bitch. On the back of the picture is a handwritten note from William himself, naming a son called Nick and another called Kyle, spelled K-Y-E-L, which nobody has ever spelled that way. And no, this isn't just a typo. Kyle is spelled like this throughout the entire game. Boring lore garbage about Kyle enjoying scaring Nick, blah blah blah, bite of 83 bullshit, who cares, let's get to the interesting stuff. Finding nothing else, Mario heads back to the office to check the cameras and notices Foxy isn't in Pirate's Cove, moments later checking to see that Foxy is running down the halls. So, Mario does know how to check the other cameras, which means he really did just choose not to check the other cameras to find Bonnie earlier. Here we get a choice to either close the door or hide under the desk. Why the hell would you choose to hide under the desk? Well, it's to see a cool death animation. Oh shit! He slashed my shit up, bro. But obviously we close the door and keep that little bitch out. After almost dying a second time, Mario decides he should leave the office again and continue to look around. So maybe he is an idiot. We head back to Pirate's Cove and find that an arcade machine has randomly appeared. Since Mario is an actual god gamer, you already know he had to pour some hours into whatever game it is we're about to play. Is it Galaga? Pac-Man? Maybe some Donkey Kong Jr.? No, it's actually just a really shitty classic FNAF minigame. I should have figured. In this game, we play as the little baby bitch boy from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, except for some reason his name is Nick, which is just not correct. But whatever. Nick walks into his bedroom and gets absolutely reamed by his brother Kyle, which again, also not his name, but we're just gonna ignore that, I suppose. With the jump scare playing out, the game ends. Mario pretends to be sympathetic for a short moment before forgetting the kid ever existed and walks back to the office where the power then goes out. I could describe to you what happens next, but I think it'd be much funnier if I just let it play out.
Well, I guess that's all the rooms. But I never found the chicken.
Guess you're fucked. Oh shit. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Thank you, Mario. Ooh. Ooh.
Welcome, one and all, it's time to have some fun.
No.
Let's have a party for you, my friend. Hey, don't run away, we want to play with you every night. Hey, buddy, don't run away, it's time to play our happiest day. Now you are trapped in nowhere to hide, no other places you can hide. Hey, just sit back and relax.
What?
You will be nothing but a bloody corpse.
Oh.
And then you'll be in our tomb.
What? It's 6 a.m.
Wasn't that just amazing? You're telling me Beyonce won the Grammy for her shitty country album when this masterpiece existed? God, nobody has any culture anymore. With that, night 1 concludes and we cut straight to night 2 with Mario returning for some reason. Which, by the way, I still really don't know why he's here in the first place. Mario gets back to the office and listens to another useless phone call. We're told the camera doesn't have any batteries and that there are some spares in the kitchen for some reason. And since Mario can't sit in one place for more than 13 seconds, he has to get out of his office and explore what he's already explored. Heading to Pirate's Cove, Mario stumbles right into Chica. Chica threatens him with a good time by offering to put her entire beak into his rectum, but Mario rudely declines and runs into the kitchen to hide. Again, we're given a few options. Let's go over the stupid ones first. If you choose to hide in the oven like a moron, I'm willing to bet you can guess what happens. Hide in the oven? That's an atrocious idea, sure.
I know you're in here. I'm gonna find you.
She almost British? That'd make me hate her more.
I think she's gone.
I don't think she is.
Hey, why won't the door open? Come on! What's that smell?
You, bro, it's you.
Oh no, the
Oh shit, you're cooked. That's right, you roast like a pig. Now, if we decide instead to put on our thinking caps like a big boy, we choose to hide under the sink, which is actually not thinking cap behavior now that I think about it, but whatever, because that is the correct option to choose in this case, and I actually don't know if you can even hide anywhere else in the kitchen. After Chica leaves, Mario finds a battery, so he heads back to the office to pop those puppies in the camera, only to find that he needs more. Great. We notice a key to the supply closet on the desk, so we go there to check for more batteries. Lo and behold, we actually find some there, but we also find Bonnie sniffing around for some booty. Upon being groped, Bonnie drops another fire bar.
I found you. Time for some fun.
I love this game so much. Anyways, we fight Bonnie off with some cleaning supplies and book it back to the office to lock Bonnie out. Once Bonnie gives up, Mario checks the cameras and notices an arcade machine inside of the curtains in Pirate's Cove. So, like a moron, he decides to go check it out. We get to the arcade machine and hop into the next Mona Lisa of a minigame. In this minigame, we play as Kyle after the events of the Bite of 83, where instead of taking him to the hospital, they just leave his sorry ass in his room to die. Kyle walks down to the basement feeling a lot of guilt, as he should. This is where William comes downstairs to yell and belittle him. Once again, as he should. But then William goes sicko mode and slits his throat, stuffing his son into the Foxy suit that for some reason they have in their basement. Upon finishing the minigame, Mario notices Foxy is right behind him and a chase ensues. Now, you might see this chest and blade off to the side of the cove, and you might think to use them to your advantage. That's what I thought. But after a few attempts trying to interact with them, I noticed that they're just fucking decorations. Also, for some reason, the Mario avatar art while interacting with these objects is way different from the usual PNGs. Anyways, we run back to the office and lock Foxy out. Once he leaves, we decide it would be a phenomenal idea to exit the office once more and continue to look around. Mario just never learns, does he? In the party room, we find a note on the floor that wasn't there before. The note seems to be from another one of William's sons, who I can only imagine is Michael. Michael's worried about his missing brother and is a little sussy about how weird his father is acting. Going back to the office, we lose power again and again. I can't just describe what happens next. You have to see it yourself. Oh, dick. Bro, we closed the door for like 20 collective seconds. Please don't sing again. Please, dear God, don't. Okay, we're good. This is some bullshit like I wasn't supposed to actually come back to the office. I'll cream my pants, bro.
Aw, man. He didn't finish his song.
I actually really liked it.
I was enjoying that. He should have been on American Idol.
What?
Thanks.
Oh shit. Bro, is he about to get touched? This just might be the best game ever designed. Wasting no time, we jump right into night 3. Phone guy tells us Freddy has been squirting, literally, which like, fucking, ew. He tells us it's our job to go to the back room and clean him up, so we head to the back room to do just that. Upon entering, we see Freddy posted up on the table and we're given the option to remove his head, hand, or torso. Choosing to remove his torso, we unsurprisingly find a child's corpse inside. Mario runs to the bathroom like a bitch to vomit, and upon trying to leave, quickly runs back into the stall to hide from Chica, who had just entered. We choose to try and punch Chica, but unfortunately for us, Chica is made out of metal, so she just kills us instead of giving us a blumpkin. Oh, you're dead. Oh, ow, bro, I don't want to eat it. Back the fuck up. Back up, bro. Just shit out my eyes and shit, bro. Fuck off. What you actually have to do is just trip her and run away. Doing exactly that, we run back to the office only to find an arcade machine inside. Okay, let's play it. In this minigame, we play as William as he wrangles up the kids and brutally murders them. William manages to frame his son Michael, but I don't really care. Pretty typical FNAF stuff if I'm being honest. But come on, do we really care about this backstory? Of course not. You're watching this video to learn about the tomfoolery in this game, so let's get back to that. As Mario leaves the office in an attempt to explore again, the power goes out, and Mario asks the most based question of all time. Oh shit,
Are
you're
you
fucked.
serious? Is this power supply running on AA batteries?
Okay, that's a good line. I like that one. Mario decides he's just gonna leave because this is bullshit. However, while trying to leave, Golden Freddy appears right in front of him, and Night 3 comes to a close. Night 4 has us playing as Luigi, who goes to the pizzeria in search of Mario. As Luigi goes to the office, he finds William fucking around with some crate. After a bit of back and forth, William tells Luigi he's seen Mario around. He says he'll help Luigi find Mario, but that he has something he needs to do first. Giving Luigi the task of keeping the animatronics distracted, he walks off, telling Luigi not to look in his crate. So the very first thing Luigi does is look in the crate, because he's a little rebel and it is in fact not a phase. Inside is a note from Henry. It just says some stupid shit about not believing Michael is a killer. If you remember, William framed his son for the child murders, whatever, boring ass garbage. I want funny haha lines! Luigi goes to the back room and finds an arcade machine. You shouldn't be surprised by these things anymore. This minigame isn't even a game, it's just sitting there like a dunce while Henry talks to you. If you thought Henry's monologue from Pizzeria Simulator was good, you're not even ready for how top tier this monologue is. And you can listen to the whole thing in my playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. After completing this minigame, a Golden Freddy plush appears on the table of the back room and the power once again goes out and Luigi gets scared like a bitch. The plushie offers to help Luigi find his way around the building and to Mario. Luigi agrees and we play a sister location style game where the plushie tells us which directions to go in and when to stay still if there's an animatronic present. The only difference between sister location in this section, however, is that the plushie in this game talks about 400 times slower than Baby did.
What do I need to go to the kitchen for?
You will see. So first, go forward.
After wandering into the kitchen, Luigi meets the marionette. The marionette talks for about 8 hours straight and basically just says, murder bad, I murder murderers, Mario is near the bathroom, go get him. Oh, and also please free the children's souls. We do exactly that and find Mario in a dark room halfway inside of a suit. We solve a code puzzle that opens the suit, which actually makes no sense whatsoever, but whatever, let's just pretend like it does. The brothers walk out of the bathroom and catch Freddy making out with a toilet. No, I'm not joking. This is actually something that is in the game. I have no idea what's going on. I might be having a stroke. Anyways, the brothers go home, as they should. Before starting night 5, we're given the option to go back or not. We obviously choose not to, but psych fucker, that's the wrong option. Luigi's fucking dead. Oh yeah, and Mario's dead too. Watch Fredbear bite his fucking arm off like he's Pennywise and pull him into the fucking void and force him to stare at his brother's corpse until the end of time. Damn. That escalated quickly, didn't it? Yeah, let's just get back to the pizzeria instead and avoid all that. Upon arriving, the brothers hot-bottom to the office to make a game plan. Luigi tells Mario about the promise he made to the marionette, and Mario agrees to help. The brothers go to the kitchen and ask the marionette how they can save the kids' souls. The marionette tells them what they have to do is save each kid. Pretty basic concept.
Tee, go find shit they like, Lamau. Fetch quest time!
To save Chica, we have to go eat the pizza found in the party room and compliment how good it is. That makes the soul of Chica happy and she gives us a party box and a chest key. Using the chest key, we go to the bathroom and unlock a crate that has Bonnie's guitar inside. We take his guitar to him, saving his soul, and he gives us a party box and another chest key. I'm geeked out of my mind right now. Using the key Bonnie gave us, we unlock a crate in the bathrooms. That crate has a Freddy plush inside. We take the Freddy plush to Freddy in Pirate's Cove, saving his soul, and it gives us another party box. I'm straight up jorking it. Heading back to the kitchen, we see the marionette, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy having a party. They thank us for the help, but then Foxy shows up. He wants to kill us, but everyone else tells him not to. Golden Freddy soon shows up, which by the way is the brother who got chomped on if it wasn't obvious, and he forgives his brother for killing him. Leaving the party, we get ready to leave the pizzeria, but as we step into the party room, we see William walking towards the bathrooms and decide to follow him. This is the point in the game where we get to see Springlock failure, which is just always a good time, I can't lie.
Hide in my suit.
Kids, it's me, Spring Bonnie. It's your best pal.
Oh shit. Oh, he's fucking dead. Oh, damn. After watching the gruesome death, the brothers kick rocks and go back home. And after that, we get the abandoned ending. Oh no. Endings. Let's go! After the credits roll, we're put into the point of view of William inside the Springtrap suit 30 years later. We're given the option to either end the pain or to wait out our time. Choosing end the pain leads to a monologue from William longer than the Henry monologue we had earlier, which I was dead ass falling asleep during. You can see that in my full playthrough over on my second channel, Dxtr Black. 3 shills in one video? God damn, I'm a menace. Choosing this path leads to Springtrap burning down the establishment and ending his life, giving us the we all burn ending. If we instead choose to wait our time, we get a teaser for the next game in the series, Mario and Animatronic Horror Fazbear Fright Arc, which, spoiler alert, was never released. And with that, that's all Mario and Animatronic Horror has to offer. Have you ever played a game that was so good you wanted to play it again? Have you ever found a game dev whose games were so finely crafted you wanted to play every one they've ever made? Now, here's a crazy question. Have you ever played a game that was so utterly disappointing, bad, and a waste of time that you'd honestly, and I do mean honestly, would rather play Garten of Banban? Well, I have. I just did actually, and I need to talk about it. I literally cannot help myself, and I bet you know the game I'm talking about, and maybe you even like it. This video is being made to explain why you shouldn't. The game I'll be talking about today is Five Nights at Candy's 2. You might be asking, why are you covering the second game in a series when you haven't even made a video about the first one? Well, I'll be honest with you, the first one is criminally mediocre at best, but if you guys want, I'll cover that one too. I just remembered this second game and remembered how unmemorable it was. So let's dive right into the most boring and mind-numbing Five Nights at Freddy's game ever made. Five Nights at Candy's 2 begins with us getting a text message from someone. That someone is not named, but we're told that we lost a bet, and because of that, we'll have to spend 5 nights in an abandoned factory again. Note that this person says, again, which would lead one to believe that we've had to spend 5 nights here before. And let me tell you, when there are killer animatronics somewhere, you survive 5 nights there, and then agree to a bet where the loser has to go there again, I guarantee you're not taking that bet and you're not going there again. So I have a theory about our player. They're brain dead. That has to be it, because no one else on Earth would be that stupid. Anyways, then we get slingshotted into the first night, and that means I'm plagued with the burden of telling you about the worst part of this game, playing the game. Instead of being in an office, we're in the middle of a hallway. Why? Because we're the king of making bad decisions. There are several rooms with only one entrance, but we instead choose to sit in the one room in the building that has about 6 fucking entrances, so our chances of living are as small as possible. It's also a good idea to mention that this hallway we're in is darker than the abyss, so seeing is impossible, but don't worry. We came prepared with the worst possible form of light that we could possibly think of. An old-ass camera that has a flash. Again, remember, we've been here before, for 5 nights, and we came back with a terrible form of lighting, even knowing how fucking dark it is. Brain dead. I will continue to emphasize this. Brain dead. Do we have a camera system? I hear you asking. Of course we do. Is it good? I hear you asking. Not even a little bit. Looking at the camera, you'll see a bunch of phone symbols. For some reason, almost every room in this building has a phone in it. Now remember that this building is supposed to be a factory. Why would there be a phone in every room in a factory? Have you ever worked in a factory? Let me tell you, factories are some of the loudest buildings on Earth. I would say it'd probably be quieter to work at a nuclear testing ground than it would be to work in a factory. On top of that, because of how loud factories are, most will have you wearing earplugs, so I guarantee you that nobody who's working in this factory would ever in a billion years be able to hear any of these phones ringing. But let's stop being literal and talk about why they're here. Similar to Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there are no doors. So how do you keep the animatronics from fingering your butthole? Well, we use the phones to lure them around the building, just like the Balloon Boy laugh from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The key difference between this system and the system from FNAF 3 is, where the laughing system from FNAF 3 is good, the phone system from Five Nights at Candy's 2 fucking isn't. Let me explain. So in FNAF 3, you can use the Balloon Boy laugh in whatever room you want, and Springtrap will move to that room as long as he's in a room that is adjacent to it. Makes sense. In Five Nights at Candy's 2, you can use the phone in whatever room you want, but animatronics will only move to it if they're in the main hall where you are, and the reason given is, the only room that they can hear the phone in is the main hall. Please, tell me how that makes any sense at all. Even if an animatronic is directly next to the room you use the phone in, they can't fucking hear it. But if they're in the main hallway and you use a phone in the furthest possible corner of the room 847 meters away, they'll jump on that shit. That makes no sense. Now you might be wondering, what happens when they get to the room of the phone you rang? Good question. They fucking disable it. Great. Now I have a question. Why are they going after the phone? It's a phone. Who cares? In Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the reason Springtrap went after the Balloon Boy call was because it sounded like a child, and Springtrap had pedophobia, unlike Dr. Disrespect. But this is just a phone. What reason do the animatronics have to attack this phone? I actually have a theory about that. Because the phone call ring is the most annoying sound on the face of the planet. Don't believe me? This is what it sounds like. Isn't that the worst? Get ready to hear that for your whole playthrough, because it's the main fucking mechanic of the goddamn game. I still haven't even mentioned what happens on night 1. So to start, there's no phone calls. Thank God. If I had to hear the phone ring even one additional time, I think I'd rip an infant in half. And the only animatronic that's active on night 1 is Cindy. And let me tell you, she's got hips like Judy Hopps, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Cindy is pretty boring overall. She just moves around. Call phones and make her move, mazel tov. But let me tell you, she moves at about Mach 20. You'll call a phone, causing her to leave the hall, and within about 10 seconds, she's already back into the hallway again. So you get to hear the oh-so-good sound of the phone again and again and again. I love life. Just kidding. No, I don't. This game does something pretty interesting. Once you beat a night, you'll get a minigame. Night 1's minigame has you play as Chester the chimpanzee. In it, you walk around what I assume is the building from the first game. You walk down into the office, grab a key, and unlock what I'm guessing is a back room. However, we don't get to see what's inside before the minigame ends. Cool, I guess. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2. Night 2 introduces a new animatronic, that being Chester. Remember him? You should. I just talked about him quite literally about 15 seconds ago, so I hope you would. Chester has a mechanic more unique than Cindy's, so that's good at least. Chester will start going quite literally apeshit on one of the vents in a random room. Can you guess how to deal with him? Can you? I'll wait. Ding ding ding! We have a winner! You fucking use the fucking phones to fucking scare the fucker away. God, fuck, I can't stand the phones. I'm gonna shart and then I'm gonna piss on it. Fuck, I'm sorry, I need to relax. I've been seeing a psychiatrist, and he says we're making great progress. However, there was this one time his phone rang during a meeting and I ripped the couch in half. So, that set us back a little bit. Anyways, once you use the phone, Chester will run away like a bitch. If you don't use the phone fast enough, he'll climb through the vents and kill you. Very easy mechanic overall, but when mixed with the fact that when a phone is being called, you can't call another one, that's when it starts to get hard. Because you'll send Cindy to another room, and then directly after, Chester will start pounding on a vent in another room. Fuck me. Now I have to wait 30 seconds to use a phone again, and in that time, Chester has already tied me up, looking at me up and down and shit. But once we get through Night 2, we can move on to the post-Night 2 minigame. In this minigame, we play as the Penguin. I looked up his name, and his name is just the Penguin. Very creative, guys. Great work. In this minigame, we're tasked with picking up the remains of Chester and stuffing them into a box. Let's imagine that all of these animatronics are friends for a second, okay? That's super fucked up. Yeah, go pick up your best friend that's been ripped into fucking pieces and just throw him in a box. No funeral, no burial, just toss him in there. I feel bad for the Penguin. First he's got no name, and now he's on crime scene cleanup. Trying our best not to think about it, we move on to Night 3. Night 3 introduces two new animatronics, Candy and the Penguin. Candy is boring as fuck, literally just doing the exact same thing that Cindy does, which makes you wonder, what was even the point? The Penguin, however, does do something pretty interesting. The Penguin can randomly appear on any camera. If you look at him for too long, he will disable your cameras for a while, making you unable to look at them, retroactively making it impossible to call the phones, which is arguably a good thing, because I'd rather put a gun in my mouth than listen to the phone ring again. Now, I'm gonna pause real quick and ask you guys, does this mechanic sound a little familiar to you? Well, that's because it's quite literally just Balloon Boy's mechanic from Five Nights at Freddy's 3, with borderline zero differences. Ah yes, originality, how uncommon you are. But hey, it is better than Candy, to be fair, because the frequency in which I have to repeat myself in this script is making my ears ring. Ring. Oh, the fucking phone, oh, ring! Post Night 3 minigame time. Aren't you excited? You better be excited. In this minigame, we play as Blank. Our task here is to pick up 4 drawings. I would say that's irrelevant, but if you spend as much time as I do looking at and studying FNAF games, you'd know that Blank's purpose is to literally be drawn on by children, so this actually makes a little bit of sense. 3 of the drawings don't really mean dick, but there is one drawing I'd like to draw your attention to, only because it's the only thing in this game that I think is unsettling. A drawing of a sad kid with the text, "Where's Chester?" It's just unsettling because we know what happened to Chester, but this kid doesn't. It's a very small detail, but I have to do my best to find something positive in this dumpster fire of a game. After we collect all 4 drawings, it's time to move on to Night 4. Night 4 literally introduces no new animatronics. So we're just going to talk about the post-Night 4 minigame. I'm going to be honest with you guys because we're friends, pals, homies, some might even say buds. This minigame has no fucking purpose existing. You can tell that the devs just thought, oh fuck, I can't think of another minigame with substance, and then made this minigame. In this minigame you play as Cindy, and your task is to walk down to the office, grab Candy's tie, and give it to him. That's it. You know, I can tell that this script is going to be shorter than I usually like them to be already, but when you give me 0 content to work with, game, it makes it significantly more difficult to lengthen the script out so that the viewers have more fucking content. But I guess I'll just go fuck myself then, and we'll move on to Night 5. Night 5, thankfully, introduces a new animatronic for me to complain about, Blank. Technically, Blank can come in Night 4, it's just super unlikely, but we're not going to talk about that. Can you guys guess what Blank does? If you guessed the exact same fucking thing that Candy and Cindy do, you're fucking right. Why even try to make a mechanic that's interesting when you could just Control-C, Control-V code, right? That's so awesome. But as far as I can tell, Blank does at least do something different from Candy and Cindy. If you call the phone that's in the room he's in, he will disable it almost instantly, and that's about all that's different. Boring ass, dumbass, bitch, robot, bitch. You know, I really honestly wish I had more to talk about when it came to this game, but of course, it's a disappointment of a game, so I really don't. But we can talk about the post-Night 5 minigame. The post-Night 5 minigame actually has a lot of substance to it, so I thankfully actually have something to talk about. In this minigame, you play as Candy, and your goal is pretty unclear. As you wander around the building, you stumble into a room where you see police officers guarding the doors, with police lights flashing on the outside of the building. As you walk into the office, you see the corpse of what appears to be another police officer, and deep laughing can begin to be heard. As you continue to walk around the building, you'll notice that the door that Chester unlocked in the first minigame is now open. As you go to walk up to the door, 3 police officers bust the door down and tase the fuck out of Candy's plump ass. Isn't it crazy that this minigame has been more fun than the entirety of the rest of the game combined? God, you know, this should have been the game with absolutely nothing else, and I probably would have had more nice things to say about it. But let's move on to Night 6, because it's FNAF, so of course the title of the game is a lie. Night 6 removes every single animatronic we've seen so far, but adds 2 new ones, the rat and the cat. I'm sorry, did I say adds? I meant replacements. because these two animatronics literally add nothing new to the game. Both characters act the same way Candy and Cindy do, but the cat also has Chester's ability to pound on the vent, and the rat has the penguin's ability of forcing your cameras to reboot if you look at him for too long. Is this night good? Literally no. Is it unique? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing it? Literally no. Did I have a good time playing this game at all? Literally no. Am I having a good time writing this script? Kinda, I guess. There's only so much you can write about when the dev of the game shits in their hand and gives it to you with a sticky note attached that reads Five Nights at Candy's 2. But whatever. Post-Night 6 minigame time, I suppose. The Post-Night 6 minigame also has a lot to talk about. Hilariously more to talk about than the actual base game. This minigame starts with us playing as Old Candy, as we follow a Shadow Candy around the building. He leads us to an open door with a worker inside. As we approach this worker, he turns around and is rightfully frightened and tases the fuck out of us. Usually that's where these minigames would end, but we actually get to continue. Next, we're back in the body of Blank, with the task of picking up a bunch of pictures again, with the final picture being a drawing of Shadow Candy, and as the picture leaves our screen, we see Shadow Candy behind us and then he clanks Blank's cheeks. Bars. However, we're still not done playing this minigame. Next, we're back playing as Old Candy and again are tasked with following Shadow Candy around the building. We walk past a man in a black vest who looks very upset, and Shadow Candy leads us to the office where we find a crying child. As we walk up to the crying child, they get up and stop crying and prance out of the room all happy and shit. Continuing to follow Shadow Candy, he leads us back to the man in the black vest we saw earlier to find him grabbing the child we found by the head, based, and the child is crying. We walk up to the man and presumably bust it down freaky style with him and split him in half like a log. And that's the end of this minigame. I honestly appreciate this game doing something that at least feels like progress and understanding. However, that's where my critiques end for this game, because that's the fucking end of the game. Do you feel fucked? I feel fucked. This game just bent me over and fucked me. I spent a few hours playing this game, and what do I get? I get fucked in the ass by Five Nights at Candy's 2. No lube, raw, in the ass, fucked. I am not even remotely satisfied with this game. It did nothing good at all to make me appreciate it. Sure, it has its two interesting moments in the final two minigames, and sure, it has the secret animatronic that's kind of a baddie, but that's not even close enough to make me like it. Even looking at the time at which it came out, coming off the back of Five Nights at Candy's, one of the best FNAF fan games at that time, it still wasn't even good. It was just a shitty Five Nights at Freddy's 3 with a boring ass gameplay loop. Now, I'm not a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 either. I think overall it's a pretty bad game, but it was original. This dog shit did what that dog shit did, but even more dog shit. I would rather put a toothpick under my toenail and kick a wall. I would rather play Moozy again. I would rather peel my own skin off and pour salt on it. I would rather watch old Markiplier and try not to cringe at how eccentric he was. This game had so much it could have done, and for some reason it just didn't. It had so many animatronics to work with, which could open the door to so many unique mechanics, but instead it chose to have all of them do the same thing, which just makes for an experience that is so catastrophically boring. The gameplay felt useless, the minigames felt useless, and the fucking phone call makes me want to strangle a baby deer. But let me know what you think. Do you think this game is actually a masterpiece, or have you realized that you were blinded by nostalgia?
Those Nights at Rachel's. That is the game we'll be talking about today. Am I excited to talk about this? Originally, yes, I was. It's a classic, and surprisingly, a classic I had actually never seen before. Made by Nixon, also known for this little FNAF game. I'm not totally sure if you've heard of it. It's kind of a little bit under the radar, you know, kind of a little bit underground, you could say, called The Joy of Creation. I was pretty excited to see what this game had in store for me, and then I played it. And after playing it, I can say I honestly thought there would be more to talk about. Expect a shorter video today, because when I tell you that this game is literally a bunch of nothing, I'm not lying. Strap in and get ready to dive into the very small world of Those Nights at Rachel's.
Those Nights at Rachel's takes place in a restaurant called Doug's and Rachel's. We play as a newly hired night guard. I'm sure you would have never been able to figure that out. Yes, in fact, we do surprisingly play as a security guard in this Five Nights at Freddy's game. I know that's pretty out of the norm for a FNAF game, but hey, Those Nights at Rachel's was really trying to reinvent the wheel here, break the mold. Let's jump into the first night this game has to offer and really start going over a few of the major flaws I noticed. To start, the office is massive. We've got 2 big doors, pretty standard, and we've got 2 monitors, one for your cameras and the other for your door buttons, and a display which shows how much power you have remaining. Finally, there's a spare room off to the side that has some curtains, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But to start, I want to talk about what I personally feel is this game's biggest flaw. The majority of the things in Those Nights at Rachel's are redundant or not useful at all. I could explain every single reason right now, but I think it would be better to explain these problems as they become relevant naturally throughout the game. To start, let's talk about how the door monitor is actually useless completely. Now, you might be thinking, how could the monitor that allows you to close the door be useless? That's like literally the main mode of defense in a lot of FNAF games. Well, here's where we get to talk about something really cool, and something in retrospect I'm not a huge fan of in FNAF games. Keybinds. Keybinds in most games serve to make the experience more comfortable for the user, and in a lot of cases, even in FNAF games, they can be used properly and work effectively. For example, Rachel's uses keybinds in a very good way, that being movement. While playing Those Nights at Rachel's, you'll see several arrows, and it may even look a bit overwhelming. Clicking these arrows will transport you around the office, whether that be turning, traveling to another room, peeking around a corner, or hiding under your desk. Ignoring the fact that these arrows are always present, which could lead to confusion as to when certain actions can be performed, with all of these buttons on screen and the fact we're in a 3D environment, adding keybinds for movement was a very smart idea, as you can use WASD to turn and move and E to peek around corners. This is a very good example of keybind integration into a FNAF game. Now it's time to talk about a very poor integration of the keybinding. Using the Z and X keys, you can shut the 2 doors in your office. Now, I want to be very clear that that mechanic by itself is not inherently a bad thing. Binding doors to a key on the keyboard can work. I think it worked well in a game like Ultimate Custom Night. However, here's the big difference between Ultimate Custom Night and Those Nights at Rachel's. UCM keybinds work not only because a large focus of the game's mechanics centralize around keybinds, actively making keybinding a mechanic of the game itself, but without keybinds, the game would probably be completely impossible. While yes, a lot of the things could be controlled solely by your mouse in UCM, it's also not possible to do multiple things at once with your mouse like is required by UCM. So in that case, I think keybinding works and is good. Those Nights at Rachel's uses keybinding in a way that makes an otherwise interesting mechanic completely useless. You will never have to look at the second monitor in your office throughout your entire playthrough. Adding keybinds to the doors has made it useless. And that's what I mean. And that's the pattern you're going to notice as we continue to talk about the game. Mechanics making other mechanics useless. This is, in my opinion, the prime example of this in Rachel's, but we'll talk about a few more as we go on. On night 1, we get a phone call from a teenager who sounds like he's about to neck himself.
Hello and welcome to your new job at Doug's and Rachel's.
Before transferring us to a live call with the manager of the establishment.
Hello? Hello? Are you there?
At first, that might sound cool. Popco's did a somewhat similar mechanic where you could interact with the phone guy by asking a question at the end of the call. Rachel's doesn't do that. It just acts as a normal phone call, but you know, that's really nitpicky. We're told the basics of how the nights are going to play out. We're told point blank that the animatronics move around and that we will need to close the doors to defend ourselves, something that isn't typically seen in FNAF games. Transparency? That's nuts. Except not really, because after almost letting out the words "saved my life," the phone guy chooses instead to say "saved my job." So, I mean, not completely transparent, but you know, I guess that's progress. It's also during this phone call where we learn that recently a newer restaurant has been destroying the reputation of Rachel's, that restaurant being Freddy Fazbear's. Now, here's an interesting question. What could have possibly happened at Freddy's that would have made another establishment with robots look bad? Oh yeah, maybe death. Yeah, that'd do the job. I would love to keep talking about the night one phone call, but there's this really funny and quirky moment that happens during it. Something about Rachel's is that the nights are really, really short. So, and I'm not kidding, the phone call is literally cut short in the middle of a sentence because the night ends.
Sanitary and rude, but customers are customers. We don't need them.
Is this guy gonna shut the fuck up?
Hello and welcome to your new job at Doug's and Rachel's. We have the best animatronics and food available at the
What?
lowest prices.
What the fuck?
Straight up guarantee. Since this is your first night at the job.
Okay. I guess that's night one. What can I say? This is absolute peak cinema, and I've never seen anything better before in my life. But enough about the boring shit. What about what actually happens during the night? Well, if you were hoping for anything at all, put that thought away because literally nothing happens at all. And it's not even for a lore interesting way like FNAF 3, where nothing happens on night 1 because Springtrap isn't even in the building yet. No, animatronics move on night 1 in those nights at Rachel's, but they just never make it to your office, something that I promise you will be a common trend throughout your playthrough. But let's talk about the animatronics that activate on night 1. Literally every single fucking one aside from 2. Now relax. That may sound intimidating, but keep in mind I said you will never get attacked on this night. The only 2 characters that aren't active are Pete and Bane. However, I'm not going to explain the mechanics of each character that is active on this night right now to save you all from blowing your brains out. Instead, I'll just introduce characters as I talk about the nights and space them out a bit. Let's talk about the 2 characters you'll probably see the most, Rachel and Doug, the 2 faces of the restaurant. I really want to start by talking about Doug, since you will really be seeing him a lot. And I do want to preface that a lot is subjective for this game, since, no fucking joke, I probably had an animatronic reach my office less than 10 times throughout my entire playthrough. That's how much fucking nothing happens during this game, by the way. Doug does what you think a first active animatronic would do. Wanders around the building and eventually makes it to your office. If he gets to your door, you can check by peeking around the corner and flashing your flashlight, which I will admit does look pretty cool. And I think that having to peek him like a game of Valorant is actually a really interesting idea. Too bad I only got to do it about 4 fucking times. Obviously, just close the door and he leaves. Now we can talk about Rachel, except no we can't because she's literally just Doug. She does the exact same thing with no difference. I'm so happy I'm alive. I'm actually pretty sure that throughout my entire playthrough, never once was I attacked by Rachel. You know, the main fucking character in the game. I never saw her aside from in the cameras. Oh, and speaking of the cameras, they are a whole nother issue in and of themselves. They're worthless. Kind of, pretty much. Now, to be fair, I'm aware this game was made really early on in terms of FNAF fan games. So to a degree, you can excuse mechanics not being perfect. But even in the original game, the cameras had a use. Now, I want to make it clear that yes, technically they aren't completely useless. With how infrequently the characters seem to move, it might as well be useless. So let's talk about this game's camera forcer, this game's Foxy, Ray the Raccoon. Ray, quite literally, is just Foxy. Starts on one camera, has multiple different phases he'll move through before charging at your office and killing you. The way to stop him is easy. Just look at the cameras. I'm not sure if he cares about you watching him specifically or just checking if you're on the cameras in general, but it honestly doesn't matter which one it is because he's the only character on the cameras that even matters, so you should probably just have your camera on him all the time anyways. Dxtr, you literally just explained how the cameras aren't worthless, yet you still called them worthless. Why? Why did you do that? That doesn't make sense. It really sounds like you're just being negative for the sake of being negative. While I personally never once saw Ray attack throughout the entirety of my playthrough, you do not have to check on Ray very frequently. Yes, if you never open the cameras, he will more than likely attack you, but even if you just check the camera once every 30 seconds, he's not gonna get you. I don't think looking at the camera for 1 second every 30 seconds is making use of the cameras. A game you could easily compare this to is Five Nights at Freddy's 1, a game that has you do pretty much the same thing, really just opening the cameras without doing much of anything on them. And while I agree that the cameras in Five Nights at Freddy's 1 are generally useless, there's at least a few useful mechanics that can come from them. For example, we all know that your right door camera is really the only camera that matters, with the occasional check to Foxy to see what phase he's on. You could argue that having to look at 2 cameras rather than just one, like in Rachel's, already makes FNAF 1's camera system more useful, but I feel like that might be grasping at straws a bit. There is one other mechanic that the cameras have that can actually be pretty useful in a small handful of situations, that being forcing Foxy to attack faster using the right hall cam. When Foxy leaves Pirate's Cove, there's a range of time it will take for him to be at your right door. However, you can force the attack to happen sooner by checking the right hall camera, which can be nice if, for example, Bonnie is already at your door and you want to get the Foxy attack out of the way during that time, something I like to take advantage of during stressful modes like 420. I have to be transparent for a moment and mention that there very well might be a mechanic like the right hall mechanic in Rachel's. However, like I've already stated, I've never got attacked by Ray in my playthrough, so I never really got the chance to check, and the wiki doesn't explicitly mention anything like that either, so if it does exist, I walk back my criticism. However, something that you can't neglect is just that. I never got attacked. The cameras are somewhat useful in FNAF 1 because you can do something and you will be attacked by your camera animatronic. There is no FNAF playthrough where you're not attacked by Foxy. There are playthroughs where you're not attacked by Ray, and that's where the real issue actually lies. Anyways, let's move on to Night 2, which introduces Pete and the Thing. Let's start with Pete. He's Doug, except he goes to your other door. However, this does bring up another mechanic that would be interesting if it was actually ever useful: hiding under your desk. Only one door in your office can be closed at a time, so what happens if 2 animatronics attack your doors at the same time? Well, first of all, that's never gonna happen. You don't get attacked frequently enough, but even if it did, that's where hiding under the desk becomes important. If 2 animatronics are at your doors, you close one of them and hide under the desk until the other leaves. But now hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right. If hiding under the desk can make the animatronics at your doors go away, do you even need to close the doors in the first place? Well, to my understanding, no. You don't need to close the doors for the door animatronics. You can always just choose to hide under the desk. Excuse me? You've just made an already semi-useless mechanic even more useless by designing another mechanic that solves the same problem without using up power. So the only time you actually ever need to close the door is when Ray is coming to your office, but we've already established that Ray is probably never going to attack you. So you literally never have to close the doors in a FNAF game. What? Okay, so that's pretty stupid. What about the other character on this night? The Thing. Maybe he'll be interesting. No. Hate to break it to you, but the answer is no. The Thing attacks from the curtain room. Throughout the night, the curtains will slowly open. If they open all the way, the Thing will come out and kill you no matter what, since not even hiding will be able to save you, and there's no door to the room he comes from. So every once in a while, you'll have to run to the other room and close the curtains. How frequently do you have to do this? Well, on Night 2, doing it once every hour will be enough, but with the lack of movement speed from any of the characters, even on the hardest nights in this game, you will have more than enough time to go over to the curtain and close it. You know it's sad when what I just explained to you is the most difficult threat in the entire game. Throughout the phone calls so far, it's been made clear that the goal of ours and the phone guy is to get a promotion, and the Night 3 phone call continues that narrative. The phone guy mentions that the owner of the establishment has gone missing, and that the only reason that bothers him is that nobody can get a promotion unless he's present. So that's obviously concerning for that reason. It's revealed that the owner doesn't want to be tied to the establishment anymore, and I find that a bit weird. I get that Freddy has had a shady past, but from what I understand so far, this place doesn't, at least not directly. That's really all that's important from the phone call, so we can talk about some of the new threats on this night. Let's start with Bane. Fun fact, it's just Pete with a costume on. He does the exact same thing. Also, want to hear something crazy about night 3? From this point forward, it is literally impossible for Rachel to reach your office for the rest of the game. Which means she was only ever able to reach your office on nights 1 and 2. But the craziest part? The chances of her ever reaching your office on nights 1 and 2 are borderline impossible because of how infrequently the characters move on the early nights. Which means there is a very probable chance that you will not see the main fucking character of the game throughout the entire game. What the fuck kind of logic is that? And that's really it. Something I didn't mention about Bane, by the way, is that during this night, it is borderline impossible for him to make it to your door, so you never have to worry about him either. We love video game balancing over here on the Dxtr White channel. Night 4's phone call actually has some substance to it. Apparently, the boss is still missing and nobody knows where he is, which now apparently means we won't even get paid for the week we've been doing. Phone guy mentions possibly having corporate find another boss, a better one that would give us the raise we wanted. Phone guy mentions he was snooping around in the back room and found an unlocked phone in a drawer that was apparently the boss's. He says he wasn't able to look through it for long because another employee found him snooping around. The only thing he could see was that the phone had something about an old factory or pizzeria on it. Who really cares about any of that though? Are you ready for the most fun you've ever had playing a FNAF game in your entire life? Well, let me introduce you to night 4, where you'll probably have an animatronic at your door a total of 3 fucking times. Maybe 4 if you're lucky. By the way, I know I'm going to get comments about this, but yes, I am aware about the hard mode version of this game, which, as the name suggests, makes the game harder. However, even in the more difficult version of this game, night 4 is when it really starts to get difficult, except for one super funny problem. There's a bug in the code that prevents both Rachel and Ray from ever attacking unless the power goes out, which means the cameras are literally useless because Ray will never run to your office, so you can just hide under the desk the entire game and occasionally pull the curtains closed. The only other threat in this night is Pete and Bane, but they both attack the right door. Something funny though is that they can't appear in your right doorway if you're looking at it, so you don't even mean to hide under the desk. You can just look at the fucking doorway and they won't come. Granted, if they do get to your door while you're closing the curtains, you only have about 5 seconds to react and close the door or hide under the desk, but still, holy shit, how the hell is hard mode so goddamn easy? Night 5's phone call has some honestly pretty interesting reveals. It's clear that the message we're hearing was meant to be sent to the boss, who we find out's name is Phil, clearly establishing that the phone guy still has contact with him despite his disappearance. However, it's also clear that the phone guy doesn't know where Phil went. Phone guy mentions doing something else to sabotage the business down the street, referring to Freddy's. He says they've already had one incident, so making another one happen is sure to work, which would lead one to believe that they're suggesting they caused whatever the original incident that happened there was, or that they're just wanting to cause another one. When the idea was shot down for bringing a bad rap to animatronics in general, Phone Guy says that he really messed up this time, which would lead me to believe that he had already chosen to do something. It's at this moment that the Phone Guy mentions that they've got us, the character we play as, quote, tied up in our strings. So that's awesome. Thanks, Guy. I thought we had something special together, but clearly I was just a piece of eye candy for you to oogle at all day. I thought you loved me. Anyways, the phone guy asks Phil if he's actually going to give us that promotion we apparently were promised. And he says he'd be willing to make up a lie to tell us to make sure that promotion never happens. And in all honesty, the moment I heard that shit, I would have walked right out of that goddamn building. My feelings are crushed, Guy. I'm a person too, you know. Night 5 still has the problem of both Rachel and Ray not being able to attack you. The bug carrying over to the non-hard mode version of this game as well now, so that's awesome. Even easier. Perfect. Nothing of interest to talk about here except for what happens after you complete the night. After finishing off Night 5, we get a cutscene inside of what I could only assume to be our bedroom, which for some reason has Rachel's posters on the wall. A little weird, bro, but you do you. We hear a knock at our door, and on the other side we get fucking reamed by the thing, only to wake up inside of the office once again. Apparently just being a bad dream, maybe. Or who knows? Maybe even a premonition of what's to come. Ooh, spooky. But that's really all those nights at Rachel's has to offer. A boring, monotonous gameplay loop that's enough to make me want to rather play with my own skin flute with a cheese grater. It, for some reason, helped shape the fan game scene to what it is today. Does the game look great? Yes. Are the designs good? Of course they are. But can I in all honesty say that the game itself is good? No. No, I cannot. But what about the second game? Oh boy, is that a whole nother bag of worms to dive into? Fuck it, this video has been short so far, so let's soothe our minds and talk about Those Nights at Rachel's 2 Reloaded. To start, no, this game, technically speaking, is not official. Oh, wait. Oh shit, it's actually been endorsed by Nixon? So okay, fuck, I guess it is canon. This game was not made by Nixon and was posted on April 1st of 2017, originally designed to be just that, an April Fool's joke. But due to Nixon not wanting to officially continue the series, he decided to jokingly make it canonical to the official lore. Just looking at the title screen of Rachel's 2 would lead you to believe it would be a normal FNAF experience, but in fact, it's not a FNAF experience at all. Pressing play, we load into an office where we can actually walk around. But before you can really get a good feel for your surroundings, we pull out the blicky and shoot the fuck out of one of the robots. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? That's right. Rachel's 2 is a horde-based survival shooter game. With waves of enemies approaching your office, you'll have to pop caps in each and every one of their asses. Each character having its own mechanic, with Doug being your everyday basic zombie, Rachel taking 2 shots to kill, Ray being tiny and running at light speed, and the fucking bull taking about 800 bullets to kill. And of course, there are more characters that I never experienced in my playthrough because this game can honestly get pretty damn hard. Would I recommend you play the second game? No, probably not. But if you want a good laugh and just want to have some retarded fun, then I think Those Nights at Rachel's 2 is definitely something you should give a try. Overall, it's very clear Those Nights at Rachel's has forever left an impact on the FNAF genre. And even though I think, generally speaking, it's pretty bad, I can't deny that it is a classic and a fan favorite, and has greatly helped in growing the very community I care so much about today. What is the worst FNAF game you've ever played? Maybe it was Jolly. Maybe it was Mac Tonight. Maybe it was even Fang's Pizza and Theater. All valid answers, but let me ask you to dig even deeper in your mind for a terrible FNAF game that you've played. Think back to the time you spent scrolling through FNAF games made in Scratch when you were supposed to be doing your work in high school. Think of going on Game Jolt and the FNAF tab and pressing new and just picking a game at random. Think of any game that somebody who made a FNAF game has asked a YouTuber to make a video about. These are specifically the type of games I'm referring to. Do you have one in mind? Or have you completely wiped them all from your memory? Well, today I have a new one to forcefully shove back into your noggin. Today, we're going to be talking about a game called Fredbear's Backstory. As I'm sure you know, I've been playing FNAF for a long time, so I've played many games. However, it's very seldom that I find a game that made me upset in the way that Fredbear's Backstory did. So sit back, relax, and let's jump into the worst FNAF game you've never heard of. Let's dive right into night 1. This game has so much to talk about, and so much about it that I just don't like. So let's begin by starting at the start, because where else would I start? Night 1 begins, and immediately I'm already upset. Why is that, you might ask? Well, I've got a quick question for you. When you're listening to the phone call of a FNAF game, aka the thing that is supposed to teach you how to deal with the the problems you're about to face? When you're listening to these phone calls, do you like to be able to hear them? Well, if you answered yes to that question, then you're going to be saddened to hear that you won't be able to hear a damn thing this phone guy says. He is so incredibly quiet, and everything else in the game is so incredibly loud. I truly have no idea how the dev of this game thought this sounded good, because it really doesn't.
To give you a recap, I am a paranormal investigator. I was hired by the owner of this establishment. A lot of the check on this place after hours. I may have discovered some odd occurrences here. Well, I didn't begin my show. These sounds, the hunting in nocturnal animals, they feel uneasy here.
And because of us not being able to hear anything the phone guy is saying to us, we're left with being forced to figure out all of the tools at our disposal, and more importantly, all of the threats all by ourselves. Hooray! This is gonna be so fun! Now is usually the point in time where I would start talking about the tools at our disposal. However, something about this game is that there are a lot of tools at our disposal, and it would probably take me a good 10 minutes to talk about all of them right now. So I'm not going to do that. Instead, we'll talk about the mechanics as they become relevant. However, I will still talk about the basics. Of course, we have a camera system that has so many cameras on it, I think I would rather kill myself than think about it right now. In our office, we have a mask as well. Awesome. We'll see a massive hallway in front of us, and we can turn in 2 different directions. The first will show us a vent, and in the other direction, we'll actually be able to see Foxy, which isn't scary at all, and then a door that we can close. Fantastic. And yes, there's still a shitload more mechanics to talk about, and a shitload of animatronics that will become active. Speaking of animatronics, now is probably the time we should start talking about what it is they do and how they're going to decide to enter our internal organs. Well, quite a few characters get introduced on this night, so this is really a matter of where do I start? I'd honestly prefer not to start, because this game is honestly one of the most rage-inducing I've ever played, but alas, I have to choose, so I'm going to start by talking about Spring Freddy, a character whose name you've probably never heard before in your entire life. Spring Freddy has a very basic mechanic. He starts on camera 1 on stage. To keep things as simple as possible, you do not want Spring Freddy to leave this stage. It will not be fun if he does. Thankfully, whenever he does leave the stage, a warning will appear in the top corner of the screen. When you see this error, all you have to do is go to camera 1 and press the change song button in the bottom corner. This will lure Spring Freddy's fat ass back to the stage, and you will remain safe. I personally believe that the reason they call him Spring Freddy is because his ass is so big that when he jumps on it, he bounces back up like a spring. He's got springs in his ass. He's ugly and a fat. Anyways, enough of that. I just had to throw at least one fat joke in the first quarter of the video. And let's just say I'm satisfied with myself. The next character introduced on this night is Spring Bonnie, aka a character with a name you probably actually do recognize. And Spring Bonnie is the character that will begin the onslaught of introducing new mechanics that this game has. So let's jump right into it with a smile on our faces. Except the side effect is, it's not a smile at all. Spring Bonnie will start on camera 1, just like Spring Freddy. From there, he will move to camera 10. Shortly after that, you will hear a vent banging sound. And from that point, that means he either moved to vent 1 on camera 11 or vent 2 on camera 13. All you have to do is check which vent he entered and seal it off. But of course, as I'm sure you could have guessed, these vents are not very nice, and you can't just leave them closed the entire night or they'll overheat, and then Spring Bonnie will put his tongue all over your feet. Bars, don't play with me. Finally, the last threat introduced on this night is Bonnie. Regular Bonnie this time, since for some reason we have the spring variants and the regular variants this time around, which I personally happen to just love the sound of. Bonnie will start on camera 2, which you will see has another stage with regular Chica and Freddy as well, but we'll talk about them a bit later. Bonnie will move from camera 2 to camera 9. Once in camera 9, at random, you may hear him do Jordan's signature shimmy. When you hear this, this means he's currently hopping down the old bunny trail directly to your office door to attempt to run his tongue down your unshaven treasure trail with Dorito crumbs left in it. Disgusting, by the way. Obviously, all you have to do is quickly turn around and close this door, and Bonnie will run back to the stage. So there we go. That's all of the characters introduced on night 1.
and we have a lot more to talk about in night 2. You may be thinking that what I've mentioned already seems pretty boring, but I promise you, it's about to get a lot more interesting. And by a lot more interesting, I mean I'm about to do a lot more complaining, which I happen to know you guys absolutely love. Moving on to night 2, we don't nearly have as many threats to talk about. However, don't let that fool you, as it's just one less threat than last night, meaning that on night 2, we already have 5 threats to deal with. Is that not fucking insane? I know that other games have done worse to me, but like, I'm really sitting back and thinking about it. 5 enemies on night 2 when I can't hear the phone guy explain to me how to deal with them? This is brutal. The first character we'll talk about is Freddy. Normal Freddy this time. He introduces a brand new mechanic to us. His main goal is to get to your office through the giant open chasm in front of you. The way he gets there is pretty simple. He'll start in camera 2 on stage. From there, he'll move to camera 3, and from there, he will just appear in your hallway. Now, I want to pause for just a moment and explain to you why exactly this game is going to get as hard as it does in the future. And it's exactly for the reason I just explained. Freddy moves twice, and he's already in attack mode. This is the case for several of the characters. So few movement opportunities to already needing to be dealt with is insanity. And when you have 5 characters all doing that at the same time, it's going to get stressful very quickly. Anyways, what do we do once Freddy whips out his stinky smegma-filled chode out in front of us in the hallway? Well, this is where we get to talk about a new mechanic. Looking in our office, you'll notice a locker in front of us. Inside of this locker is an endoskeleton. What we need to do when Freddy appears in the hallway is to get out of his line of sight. That makes sense. How do we do this? Maybe we hide under the desk. Maybe we put the mask on. No, you see, that would make too much sense. What we actually need to do is take the endoskeleton out of the locker and put it in front of Freddy. That way he can't see us because we'll be behind the endoskeleton. Now, this brings up several questions. To start, do you know how heavy an endoskeleton is? I feel like Freddy would kill us by the time we moved the endoskeleton over to in front of him. And speaking of that, Freddy 100% would see us moving the fucking giant robot in front of him. So why is it even tricking him? And finally, if we have to go over to the locker to take the endoskeleton out, then we're already standing by the wall out of Freddy's line of sight. So why even waste our energy dragging this big bitch over there? Why not just stand next to the wall and call it a fucking day? I just don't understand it. All right, enough complaining about Freddy. Let's move on to the other threat this night introduces, Foxy. And no, it's not the Foxy behind you. That's another Foxy. This Foxy I'm talking about is on the cameras. So who's the Foxy behind us? How about just shut your dirty whore mouth and don't worry about it? Sounds good? Great. Foxy will begin on camera 6. From there, he will move to camera 9. His goal is the same as Bonnie's, attack you through your door. So once you hear his classic footstep sounds, all you have to do is quickly close the door before he licks your butt crack like an envelope and seals it with his cream stamp of approval. Aren't I just the best at painting mental images? Yeah, I know I am. So yeah, Foxy is just Bonnie with pretty much no changes at all except the first 2 cameras he's in. Pretty lazy overall, but then again, we're playing a FNAF game surrounding Fredbear. There's already 400,000 of those on Game Jolt, and maybe 6 of them are actually good and unique. Spoiler alert, this is not one of those games. This one is just really fucking hard. However, you won't notice the difficulty of this game at this point in playing it. Something you'll quickly notice about this game is how terrible the difficulty curve is. Animatronics are honestly hardly moving at this point, but very soon and out of nowhere, that will ramp up and absolutely turn your exit-only hole into an entrance-only hole for robots. But with that, we can move on to night 3. And it's on night 3 where I start to get sad that there's no post-night minigames. I know I pretty much always bitch and complain about post-night minigames on this channel, but in all honesty, they're probably some of my favorite things to talk about. Even if they are always repetitive and boring as fuck, at least I have something fun to complain about. Night 3 once again follows the trend of introducing one less threat on each night, as night 3 only introduces 1, and holy shit is it boring. Literally just being a copy-paste character of a character we've already seen.
mean. We're going to play a little game though to make it just a little bit more fun. Here's how the game's gonna work. I'm going to start explaining what this character does, and you'll have to comment which character they're copying as fast as you can. Ready? All right, here we go. Night 3 introduces Chica. This game follows the trend of using the withered models of the animatronics, except choosing to make them not withered, which I do honestly think makes a lot more sense than what Scott did. But then again, I think we all know that in terms of continuity and story writing, Scott Cawthon had absolutely no fucking idea what he was doing. Anyways, we're talking about Chica, so let's keep doing that. Chica starts on camera 2. She jumps to camera 3 before appearing inside of the hallway in front of you. When she does, you'll have to get out of her line of sight by taking the endoskeleton out of the locker and setting it in front of her. If you still haven't figured out who Chica copies, then you may want to go to the hospital and get checked out for mental retardation, because we just fucking talked about Freddy and how that's exactly what he does, quite literally with the exact same movement pattern as well. I want everybody to listen closely with me, because this is a big tip for anybody wanting to make or that is currently making a FNAF game. Please, for the love of God, unless your game has an ungodly amount of characters, do not under any circumstance make 2 characters do the exact same thing. Actually, fuck it. Never make 2 characters do the exact same thing, because literally, what is even the point of that? And I do want to be clear, there is a big difference between having 2 identical mechanics and having 2 different characters interact with them. A perfect example is Bonnie and Chica from FNAF 1. They both go to a door and you just need to close it. However, the key difference here is that the only reason they're identical is because you have 2 identical mechanics. Those mechanics being the doors. So having 2 characters that do the exact same thing works and makes sense. A good example of what doesn't make sense is 90% of the characters from Five Nights at Freddy's 2 that all use the mask mechanic. That is a single mechanic that everyone uses. Therefore, it is boring as fuck and bad as fuck, and you shouldn't do that because holy shit, it's so boring. I don't understand what makes people think having multiple characters do the exact same thing is at all interesting in any way at all, because it just isn't. Maybe you could make an argument that having a boss character that does what every character does is an exception, but I still think that even that boss mechanic is becoming way too overused now. But maybe I'm just an old cynical man, who knows? One more thing about this night before we move on to night 4 is that still at this point, you'll notice that this game is incredibly easy, hardly having to do much at all, really only having the 2 hallway animatronics move quickly. But I promise you, it's going to change. We all know I wouldn't be talking about this game if it didn't. I don't talk about boring stinkers unless there's a really good reason to. Night 4 introduces the final 2 threats this game has to offer, bringing the total to 8, and they both suck dick and I hate them. But we'll talk about that in a second. All right, 1 second is up. Let's talk about them. The first one I want to bring up is Spring Foxy, because I guess there's a spring version of every character in this game except for Chica, because she's a woman and we all hate women here. Spring Foxy, thankfully, does something different from the other characters and introduces a new mechanic. However, do not let that fool you. In no way does that mean that his mechanic is at all interesting in any way, because it most certainly is not. Hold up, Dxtr. Didn't we already talk about Spring Foxy? No, dumbass. We talked about normal Foxy, and no, Spring Foxy is also not the Foxy that's behind us. So who is that Foxy, you might be asking? How about you suck the piss out of my dick? How does that sound, huh? Spring Foxy's goal is to go through your vents. However, he doesn't do it in the way that the other vent characters do. He goes through the middle vent on camera 12. This vent, as you'll notice, has no door to close. So what exactly do we have to do if we can't stop him from getting into the office? The answer is load around into the chamber, point it at your head, and paint the ceiling. I lied, of course that's not what you do. It's fucking Foxy, bro. Do you think this game was about to get creative? Because it wasn't. All you have to do is wait for Spring Foxy to make it to the vent in your office and hold your flashlight on him until his corny is hurt and he scampers away like a scamper. Very similar to how a runner runs and a fisher fishes. What the fuck did I just write? Like what does that mean? Like a fisher? Am I retarded? Okay, whatever. So yeah, while Spring Foxy might have a new mechanic in this game, he in no way is interesting. However, this does add another direction you now have to constantly check. And while even on night 4, this game isn't very hard, once it ramps up, you'll really be wishing Ripoff Piss Foxy wasn't existent in this game. But for now, let's move on to night 5. Just kidding, we still have another character to talk about. Did you forget that? I bet you didn't. I bet you're probably sleeping right now. So adorable. Thanks for giving me watch time. It makes me very happy. Mwah. The other threat introduced on this night is, of course, Fredbear. Let's just hope that this game doesn't follow the trend of literally every other FNAF game that uses Fredbear as the main character and decides to make his mechanic easily the most boring and uninspired of the whole cast. Hate to burst your bubble, but of course Fredbear is easily the most boring character ever designed. Wouldn't you want your main character to be the most interesting? I feel like you would, but no. Here we are about to talk about a character that could put you to sleep with how fucking boring he is. Fredbear's goal is to attack you through the large hallway, probably because his big, fat, stinky, sweaty, ugly, slimy, greasy, grimy, pungent, putrid, rancid, poop dick, shardy, farty, large and hearty, smelly, icky, huge, stink, dicky belly is so large and rotund, it's the only area of the entire building he can fit through. Also, I'm not gonna lie, this version of Fredbear kind of reminds me of those animatronics you'd see in one of those FNAF World Challenge slop videos. You know, those thumbnails that all look the exact same. I can just picture it now. A scared looking drawn chibi version of Fredbear on the left, an overly blurry screenshot of a battle from FNAF World as the background, and 3 FNAF World battle buttons on the side with pixel font in each of them saying something like, way too hard. And hard is in red to really let you know that it's about to be hard. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, talking about boring old Fredbear. Fredbear, as I've mentioned, will attack you through the main hallway. Except this time around, the endoskeleton won't work. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, I managed to decipher what the phone guy said, and it only took me a half an hour because, once again, it's fucking impossible to hear this guy. The reason why the endoskeleton method doesn't work on Fredbear is because he's too big and will be able to see around the endoskeleton. I'm sorry. Not good enough of a reason because both Chica and Freddy could both just pull this bullshit right here. But anyways, I guess let's pretend like that just makes sense for a moment. What do we need to do to defend ourselves from Fredbear? Well, Phone Guy says we have to hide our face. Awesome. So we can just turn around, right? Well, no, that gets you killed. What you have to do is just put on the fucking mask, and that's literally it. Oh my god. How uncreative can we be, guys? This is insanity. The main threat of the entire game uses a mechanic so fucking boring it's forgettable. Why? Just why? Why, when devs are making a game, do they just insist on making your characters so fucking boring? You wonder why people don't stroke your game's dick like they do with games like Juniors or Tyken Sons or Locked at Freddy's. Do you want to know the real reason? It's not because you just got unlucky with people seeing your game. It's not because another big release happened to come out around the same time. It's not because a YouTuber shit all over it and now nobody wants to play it. It's not because you're just a starving artist and people have yet to see your talent. No, it's because your game is boring horseshit. I've seen plenty of games worse than this one. This game is nowhere even close to the top 50 worst FNAF games I've ever played. I could make a whole video about those. No, because this game looks how it does is the only reason I haven't snapped my fucking monitor in half. You can't just make shit and expect people to eat it up. Put some fucking thought into it. We as the FNAF community have some of the most talented and creative people I've ever met. When we try, we make amazing things. But I'll be honest, I can see why other communities don't take us seriously at all. It's because of the overwhelming amount of dog shit, fucking degradable slop. Do something different! Try something new! Think outside of the box! Do something you've never seen before! Make something that you would play yourself! Because I guarantee that half of these fuck-ass devs are just throwing some shit together in hopes that it's played by Fusion Z Gamer or Dawko. Be creative!
Please! That's all anybody wants. People want to see something new, or at least something old with a new twist. You don't need to make something as high quality as the games that are being made by the Radiant team. Look at Five Nights at Wario's. I personally dislike those games, but they're not garbage, and they were made by one person who just had some cool ideas. We need more people like Triple Wario, because games like this that are just a copy of an overused idea are making the entire community look lazy. Anyways, let's move on to Night 5. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. I never actually beat Night 5, and there's a good reason for it. For those of you unaware, I've recently begun having a pretty serious health problem. I don't exactly know what it is yet, but it's been seriously affecting my ability to create videos the way that I want to be able to create them. I can't play games for more than 30 minutes max without getting incredibly sick. Horrible migraines that last for hours, nausea that makes it impossible to eat or drink without throwing up. It really has been miserable for me the last month or so. That's why you'll notice Dxtr Black, Gray, and Blue have stopped posting videos. I just can't make them right now. Even writing Dxtr White videos has been getting incredibly complicated for me since I can't look at my screen and write for more than a half hour without needing to sit in darkness for 2 hours for my migraine to go away. I'm on several medications and I've been in and out of the doctors constantly, but nobody can tell me what's wrong with me, and I don't see it getting better anytime soon. And with the sheer amount of whipping around you have to do on Night 5 and especially Night 6, there's just no physical way I'd be able to complete it without seriously hurting myself. As embarrassing as that is to say, I'm now a FNAF YouTuber that can't really play FNAF anymore. And that sucks. But enough being all sad and retarded, we've got a FNAF game to complain about. Night 5 obviously doesn't add anything new to the overall gameplay loop. However, it's on this night where the game really starts to amp up the difficulty, like by a lot. The characters must have all snorted a line of Nesquik before we clocked in this time around, because it's literally some of the most outrageous looking gameplay I've ever seen in my life. Huge shout out to Indie Fuel. He's the guy who's been playing in the footage you've been seeing throughout this entire video. He's an awesome guy, and you should totally go subscribe. But that's not where the worst of it begins. To talk about the worst and most degrading bullshit this game has to offer comes in the form of what treason takes place in Night 6. Just take a look at your screen right now. The sheer amount of movement going on in this night is completely ridiculous. And don't even get me started on the amount of sound cues that you'll be hearing. Take a listen. And that is what this game looks like and sounds like throughout the entire night. And you want to hear the best part? A little piece of information I haven't mentioned up until this point. The nights in this game are long as fuck. I'm talking like close to 9 minutes long. It's completely unnecessary. To go from 9 minutes of the most boring shit you've ever played in your life to 9 minutes of the most stressful, headache-inducing shit you've ever seen in your life is a wild ride. And do you want to know what you get for completing Night 6? What is it that you get to enjoy? Well, if your answer to that question was absolutely fucking nothing, then you'd be correct. No final cutscene, no story, nothing. Just booted back to the title screen. Go look at the extras menu, fucker. Like, excuse me? What are you talking about? It's not 2014 anymore, bro. Give us something interesting. Maybe there is actually some baller lore in this game throughout the phone calls. But you want to know who doesn't know? Me. And you want to know why I don't know? Because once again, for like the 90th time, I couldn't hear a fucking word the phone guy was saying throughout this game. Help a brother out, please. I'm like a starving child over here begging for some more, and I'm just getting short piled down my throat. But yeah, that's seriously all this game has to offer. From what I could tell, no secrets, no hidden mini games, nothing. Maybe I'm just spoiled from all the newer fan games doing insane shit with a bunch of post-game content, but post-game content is what I love. I personally think the post-game of any game should be the most enjoyable part. I always like to look back to Pokemon games for an example of that. Take Pokemon Black and White 2. The post-game in those games are some of the most enjoyable shit I've ever played. Or even looking at FNAF 2 for a more relatable reference. The post-game at FNAF 2 was great. If you take out the fact that the gameplay loop up is garbage. The pre-built custom night challenges, unlocking the plushies on your desk, it's fun. It feels enjoyable and really scratches that completionist brain I have. But this game just has nothing. It almost feels like the dev had other stuff planned for this game, but either ran out of time or ran out of passion to get it done. But what do I know? I just complain about FNAF games. It's not like I've ever made my own or anything. Let's just not look at that, okay? But with that, that's all Fredbear's backstory has to offer. Overall, I think this game looks nice and I think the atmosphere is good, but that's about where my positive feedback for this game ends. This game just feels so uninspired. And for a game that's literally named after the backstory of one of the most integral characters to the FNAF story, there sure is literally no backstory given about that character whatsoever. The kings of classic FNAF fan games. What comes to mind when I say that? Maybe Five Nights at Candy's, Five Nights at Wario's, Those Nights at Rachel's, and Treasure Island, to name a few. But for you freaks, you goons, you heathens, there might just be another answer. A game so popular when it came out, for a reason I'm not even sure of myself. Today, I'll be talking about that game. A game so utterly terrible, yet somehow loved. Sit back and relax, because today we're diving into the weird world of Five Nights with Mac tonight. Where do I even begin with this game? Probably by saying that for this video, I played both the first and second games, except not really because I played the remastered versions of them. Was this a good idea? No. These games were pretty bad, and unironically enough, the thing about them that pissed me off the most was the story, but we'll get into that later. And trust me, you don't want to miss that. The game starts as you'd expect an old FNAF game to begin. We pick up a newspaper and accept a job at a restaurant full of animatronics waiting to break our consent and make their willy wag. We enter the restaurant and get the first phone call of the night, and really begin the nightmare that is this game. Not only are these phone calls absolutely horrific from a story standpoint, but they're also somehow even worse from an immersion standpoint. Why? Well, not only are they quite literally impossible to hear because of how fucking loud the rest of the game is.
This is Chrissy. You may remember me. I'm the manager here at this Macca's.
But I guess the developer thought that it'd be really funny not to cut out any of the mistakes by the voice actor.
We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even opened yet. We can't afford broken animatronics in a restaurant that hasn't even been broken to the public yet.
That's more funny than anything, but the whole barely being able to hear the phone call part is enough to make me want to throw a baby deer in a river. Oh yeah, and if that wasn't bad enough, the phone guy is also Australian, so that's just torture. Anyways, the phone guy doesn't really say anything of substance in this night, really only explaining the basics, but I get the feeling I can do a hell of a lot better than he can. Let's start by going over the few tools at our disposal. First, we have the cameras. No shit. On the cameras, we have a call button that is located on the camera that contains Mac tonight. This button does what you'd think it does. Makes some noise, animatronics go, ew, and then leave. But who's affected by the call button? Let's think long and hard about that one, guys. I don't know. Maybe the fucker who's on the same camera? Jesus Christ, why am I having to explain this basic concept to you? You're like a toddler, a little stupid drooling baby, a little insignificant worm, rodent, vermin, bug. Sorry. No, I'm not. That's a lie. Anyways, the only threat on this night is Mac himself, and he's pretty damn basic. All he does is meander through your cameras, like holy shit, he's so slow. Eventually, he'll wander into your office, which, pause for a minute. This is not an office. I think we're just stationed in the kitchen, maybe? I quite literally have no idea where we are right now, because this, to the left, is the drive-through window. So we have to be in the kitchen, right? Because if so, that's stupid. But whatever. When Mac gets to your office, all you have to do is use the call button to cause him to go back to his stage. Very basic. What's the downside? I'm glad you asked, because of course there's a downside. If you use the call button too many times, an error will begin. To fix it, all you have to do is go to your control panel and reboot it. God, don't you guys miss playing Five Nights at Freddy's 3? What's that? You don't? That's unsurprising because FNAF 3 makes me want to stick my penis in a blender.
But believe it or not, that's not the only attack Mac is capable of. The other attack consists of being a fat ass and going through the drive-thru several times each night. As I'm sure you could have guessed, Mac has the chance to instead wander to the drive-thru window, and when he does, all you have to do is open the control panel and literally just tell him to fuck off, and he listens. Surprising, I know, but you know what? I'm not gonna complain, because he listened, and I appreciate that. But after each night, we get to talk about the post-night cutscenes, which aren't really cutscenes because it's just a black screen with people talking. In this game, I have no idea who we play as, but who is important is the Australian man, so get used to hearing his voice a lot. The Australian man's name is Chris. He's the manager of the McDonald's we work at. And in this cutscene, he walks into the office of... I actually don't know who we could be talking to. It's clearly a higher up because Chris asks him for a raise, but I have no idea who this higher up could be. I'm guessing it's the owner of the building, or who knows, fuck, maybe it's the CEO of McDonald's, I don't know. Anyways, Chris walks into his boss's office and asks about a raise. Why do you ask? Well, this is where we get to talk about the most hilarious sequence of words I've ever heard. Chris says his daughter is sick, with either an infection or a disease. He doesn't know what it is, but in his expert McDonald's manager opinion, it looks fatal.
Well, so far my daughter and I are dealing with very little money, mainly affected by taxes and whatnot. She's currently going through some infection or disease. I don't know what it is, but it seems fatal.
I know this is supposed to be like a super serious moment in the story, but I just thought this sentence was so fucking funny. Maybe I'm an asshole. I don't know. Of course, Chris is all pissy that he doesn't get a raise, which, by the way, grow up. You did what you should have done and asked. You didn't end up getting it. That sucks. But you wanna know what you don't do? Throw a fucking temper tantrum and yell at your boss. Because that's just gonna get you fired, moron. I get your kid is probably dying, but you wanna know what'll make your financial situation a lot better? Not having a kid anymore. The boss explains that the reason Chris can't get a raise is because the company recently spent a lot of money on the new animatronics for the restaurant. They saw how well the Mac Tonight commercials performed on TV, so they thought it'd be a good idea to capitalize and buy the animatronics so that the company would make more money. That makes sense. However, because of this, the restaurant would be closed for a week while they did renovations on the building in preparation. This, overall, is a very valid explanation as to why Chris will not be getting a raise as of now. But instead, after only one fucking day of working at the goddamn restaurant, he's already both demanding a raise and throwing a fit after not getting one. Actual child behavior right here. Moving on to night 2, we get another call from our boy Chris. He's all mopey because his stupid kid is gonna die, blah, blah, blah. Who the fuck cares, am I right? He mentioned something about the Hamburglar being found in the vents of the building, which, by the way, I would find hilarious if the Hamburglar wasn't also the most infuriating character in this entire game. Speaking of the Hamburglar, let's talk about what this dickhead does. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers. The Hamburglar, The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburger. The Hamburglar, as I'm sure you could have guessed, burgles hamburgers, and based off of where they found him, is a vent animatronic. Actually, the vent animatronic, as no other characters actually use it directly. We'll talk about that later. The Hamburglar will try to find your vent and crawl inside of it, something I think is very interesting considering this fat motherfucker steals cheeseburgers for a living, something I'm sure his mother is very proud of. Now, here's where I get to talk about how much I hate this piece of shit. He has a few phases before he's fully in your vent. What you're supposed to do is, in the final phase before he enters, blow super hot air using a button in your cameras to scare him away. That in and of itself is super easy. The problem comes from not knowing where he is, which again is super surprising given his profession of choice. Now, in most FNAF games, when you look at the cameras, they slowly pan side to side. They do the same in Mac Tonight's as well. However, in most FNAF games, you can always see the character when they're on the camera, no matter what the position of the camera is. Can you tell where I'm going with this? If not, let me make it very clear for you. When the camera is panned all the way to the right on this vent camera, you literally cannot see the Hamburglar. Why is this a problem? Because the cameras move so goddamn slow that you often won't be able to tell when he's moving because the camera is constantly glued to the right side of the screen. Bro, I wish this camera wouldn't turn 400 billion feet away from that fucking thing. Bro, could you turn the fucking camera towards him so I can see his ass? Luckily for me, I eventually heard a sound cue he makes to make noticing his movements a lot easier. But holy shit, future FNAF game devs, please, for the love of God, don't make this mistake, because this made me want to find a silverback gorilla and have him start digging in me. But regardless, if you can learn the sound cue, the ham bitch boy really shouldn't be too much of an issue, and we can move on to the post-night 2 bullshit cutscene. This cutscene starts with Chris getting on the phone with who I'm assuming to be someone at the hospital that's seeing his daughter, which, by the way, doesn't make sense. In the previous cutscene, Chris told his boss he doesn't have money to even get his kid seen by the doctor, which, by the way, I know in the US you can't legally be denied medical care, but fuck you, it's not disclosed where this game takes place, so eat my balls. Regardless, it is confirmed she has a disease. Still insane that the disease doesn't have a name either, because they've also confirmed that there's nothing they can do and she is in fact going to die. I find it weird that they can both determine that it is fatal when they haven't confirmed what disease it is. Or who knows, maybe Chris is just retarded and can't pronounce words with more than 6 letters in them, as emphasized by him once again getting upset and calling his boss stupid for ordering the new animatronics for his, and I quote, greed of money.
That bastard. Ordering them pieces of junk just for his greed of money?
Moving on to night 3, we're told nothing important by Chris and are introduced to 2 new characters, Grimace and Ronald McDickhead. Let's talk about Grimace first, because Grimace would never hurt a fly. On purpose. Grimace works kind of like a foxy, having multiple stages before attacking you, except I actually just lied because he only has 1 phase before attacking you. When you see him move from his original position, all you need to do is press a button on your camera to make him go back. Are you starting to notice a pattern for this game's mechanics? That's fine. Maybe the main fucking mascot for McDonald's will be better. What does Ronald do? Well, he'll walk around the building, aimlessly probably, attempting to find your office. When he gets there, he'll make a sound cue and stand here. I can see this getting really... Who the fuck is that? What is Ronald McDonald? Oh my fucking ears! Oh my fucking ears! For fuck's sake! What the fuck was that? I think this is like a window to the dining area. Maybe. Again, I have no idea where we are in the building. When he is there... You wanna take a little guess what you have to do to stop him from turning into the gobble monster, lathering your nuts in honey and having a feast? Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to use the exact same call button that you use for Mac, except this time it makes no fucking sense because why the hell would that affect Ronald Donald? That's it. I'm not kidding. We're already at the point where we'll just talk about the next cutscene. For fuck's sake, people actually enjoy this game, and not just because of nostalgia. Whatever. In the night 3 cutscene, Chris goes into his boss's office, tells him that his daughter dying is somehow his fault, and then literally fucking stabs him to death. Slow way the fuck down. Really? That's your reaction to that? Sure, you didn't get the raise, but guess what? Clearly you were able to get her to the hospital because you found out it was fatal. But guess what, dumbass? No amount of money would have made it not fatal. And if it could have made it not fatal, then that just means you waited too long to get to the hospital to get it checked. Now, you might be thinking, oh, he didn't want to go to the hospital because he didn't have the money for it. Usually that would make sense, but I'm gonna say fuck you to that thought process in this situation, because if this guy is willing to kill somebody because his daughter is dying, I don't think anything would have stopped him from going into the hospital to attempt to figure out what's going on with her in a timely manner. This story is such a headache. This story is frustrating, and this story makes my dick hurt. If the plot of this game is trying to make me not like Chris, then I take back my criticism, as it's doing a great job at that. But if it's instead trying to make me side with Chris and understand his way of thinking and say, you know what? Sure, killing someone is bad, but at least you could argue he had a good reason to. Then this game is doing an absolutely horrendous job at doing so. Night 4 time. What does night 4 introduce? Well, first, I want to take a brief moment to talk about the phone call and about how little sense this story makes. So, the phone guy is very clearly Chris. You can tell by the ear-grating Australian accent. So, I can't figure out the order of events that take place in this game. As we're playing through the nights, it's clear that the animatronics that were being brought have already arrived. The same animatronics that caused Chris's boss to not give him a raise. Cool. We're told in this phone call that the restaurant still has yet to open, which, by the way, raises a whole different ordeal of questions, like why the fuck are we even here? But whatever, let's forget about that for a moment. Throughout this phone call, it's very clear that Chris is bothered by the fact that the animatronics are moving from their positions at night, and he yells at us to move them back before we leave work. He says that we can't afford to have these animatronics break before the building is open to the public. So pause. Why the fuck does Chris care? Maybe I'm not even asking this question in the right way. So here, let's just pause and let's go over everything we know real quick and pretend that it all makes sense. Chris asks for a raise, gets denied. His daughter is told she's going to die and there's nothing they can do about it. Chris then kills his boss. This is what we know so far from the post-night cutscenes. We also know that Chris thinks the robots are stupid and have a part to play in his kid dying. So then tell me, why the fuck does he care so much about the state of these animatronics when in his mind they have a large part in why his daughter is either dead or dying? This is the big problem for me with this series. When I stop to think about why what's happening is happening, it just doesn't make any goddamn sense. And get this, when we start talking about the second game, it's going to make even less sense. No, I'm not joking. We'll talk about the second game in a bit, but this fact is just making me think that the dev wrote the story as he went. But okay, let's stop talking about the phone call now and move on to the threats this night introduces. Birdie and Mayor McCheese. Let's start with Mayor McCheese because it's literally just Mac tonight with a Fortnite skin on. Literally, he does the same thing. Can enter your office and show up at your drive-thru, is both dealt with in the same ways. Worthless character. With that out of the way, we can talk about the much more interesting character, which for a female bird character in a FNAF game, I surprisingly have no sexual tendencies towards it, because this bird is butt ugly. Birdie is the only other character that interacts with your vent, except unlike Big Boy, she doesn't actually enter it, probably because she's the size of Jupiter. All she likes to do is break your shit, so she must have gotten divorced, am I right, fellas? Anyways, her goal is to break your vent heater. A sound cue will play when she does so, and when she does, all you have to do is use your maintenance panel to fix it. And hey, while we're here talking about the maintenance panel, let's talk about how jank it is, and how it adds literally no challenge to this game whatsoever. The maintenance panel in Five Nights at Freddy's 3 adds a challenge because when something is being repaired, you can't use it, leading to a lot of bullshit timings that artificially make the game more difficult than it technically is. Mac Tonight's aimed to do the same thing, except they forgot the part where fixing something makes it temporarily unusable. While yes, the fixing beeps take a long time to finish, the moment you click the repair button, the problem is solved. So you can go to fix the heater, press the button, and immediately after use the heater to blow away the hungry bitch boy. Isn't that just awesome? The answer is yes, because without this gameplay flaw, this game would probably be impossible. Moving on to the Night 4 post-night cutscene, we hear Chris driving in his car. And it's during this scene my mind was fucking blown, because this story somehow begins to make even less sense. It's here where we learn that up until now, Chris hasn't even been a manager. He was just an employee, and the guy he killed was the manager. Before I continue talking about this, we need to pause and immediately go over another massive flaw in this game's story logic. So, in case you didn't know, managers aren't the ones who give you a fucking raise, you moron! There is quite literally nothing he could have done for you. It's not his decision to make. The way raises typically work is the manager will recommend an employee for a raise. It's then either up to HR, a committee, the owner, or even higher management to decide whether or not to give the raise. This fucking retard killed a guy for no fucking reason whatsoever. And the craziest part, now he's taking his place. And that's why we hear him on the phone calls. He's the fucking manager now. Want to hear some even more mindfuck? He states on the phone call that he's going over to the facility where the animatronics are being stored to go destroy them. If he's destroying them, why the fuck does he care about them so much in the phone call we receive on night 4? What the actual fuck is going on in this goddamn story? It makes no fucking sense. And guess what? It's still going to make even less sense once we start talking about the second game. So strap in, guys, because if you haven't gone brain dead yet, then you're going to later. Going into night 5, we receive one last phone call from Chris. He thanks us for protecting the animatronics, even though literally in the night previously, we got yelled at for letting them move. But fuck it, whatever. At the end of this phone call, something enters the office and ganks his ass.
You should wait. What are you doing?
Oh shit.
Get away from me, you piece of...
Oh shit. Not totally sure what it is, we're left to finish off the night, which, as I'm sure you could have guessed, adds nothing new, so we can move right on to the post-night cutscene. So, I need you guys to take a deep breath before we dive into this cutscene, because you're going to need to use your head a lot, and honestly, it may implode from stupidity. During this scene, we hear the voice of Chris's manager, so we know that this has to take place before he was killed. He mentions that the animatronics have been very damaged in the facility they were being held in. We know from the last call that Chris was going to destroy them, which is why he was driving. So we know that scene takes place before this one. However, that also means that during that scene, Chris's boss was still alive, which means he went to destroy the animatronics to piss his manager off and then killed him. Now, slow down. That doesn't make any sense. Why would he do something like that if his final plan was to kill him? That wouldn't make any sense. He wouldn't get the chance to be angry about it because he'd be dead right after. I should also mention that his manager mentions needing to check the cameras to see what damaged them. And from a very, very important detail we will learn in the second game, it makes the scene where his boss is killed even more confusing. But I'll talk about that later once we learn this very important detail. For now, let's just move on to night 6. Remember how I said the call we got from Chris on night 5 was the last? Well, guess what, shithead? I lied to you. That's right, never trust YouTubers, especially not FNAF ones. They're either liars or pedophiles. And seeing the types of people I'm up against, I'm really glad I got given the liar trait and not the other one. Anyways, yeah, we still do get a phone call from Chris this night, except this time it's revealed that he's turned into an animatronic. Woo, spooky, bitch. For some reason, he wants to kill us. I don't know why. He says that he can't have any witnesses, but that brings up way more questions. One, is he implying that we saw him kill his manager? Because I'm pretty sure we didn't. Trying to follow the timeline would show we weren't even working here at that time, so that's not possible. Second, even if we did see it, you're dead and have been turned into an animatronic or something. So it's not like you can be held responsible for your actions anyways. Also, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious Chris got killed by Mac in Night 5's phone call, as Chris is now a new threat in this night that will attack you. He's literally just Mac. He even looks like Mac. He attacks the doors, attacks the drive-thrus. Wahoo! Once you beat Night 6, you'll be thrown into a sort of free roam section, except not really, because it's a scripted scene where you walk up to Mac. He looks at you and the screen goes black, and then we get to talk about the post-night cutscene. This one takes place at who the fuck knows when. Chris is talking to his boss about getting a job watching over the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, the same place he later goes to destroy them. Okay, so we know this takes place before that, but can we pinpoint exactly when this takes place? The answer to that question is yes, and to answer it, we have to take a look at the second game. But before we hop over to that game, I have one more question to ask. What the fuck was the point of the character we played as during the night segments? We quite literally served no purpose. Apparently we were witnesses, but we never actually witnessed anything. At first I thought, maybe Chris is destroying the animatronics and then pretending in the phone calls to us it's something else doing it. But that wouldn't make sense because one, we're not in the facility where they're stored, we're in the McDonald's, and two, Chris killed his manager after he destroyed the robots. And we know that during the night sections his manager is already dead because Chris is the manager at that point. So what the fuck did we even do except just work at fucking McDonald's? I guess we got looked at by Mac at the end, but it seems like we were just utterly useless. Also, we were wearing a yellow glove, which would lead me to believe it was actually in the POV of fucking Ronald. I don't know what the hell's happening right now. But whatever, let's forget about this mess and just hope that Mac Tonight's 2 is better than this one. Spoiler alert, it's a lot worse. Get a refill on snacks and drinks. Let's dive deeper down the shithole. When it comes to Five Nights at Mac Tonight's 2, not only is it worse gameplay-wise, it's also worse story-wise, somehow. Let's start by getting one huge detail I noticed out of the way. On the title screen, you can see a list of credits, and if you look close enough, you can see that one of the people who helped work on this game was, Ivan G, aka the creator of my least favorite FNAF fan game series of all time, Jolly. If you'd like to hear me rant all about that game, you can do so after you finish this video, as I have an entire hour-long review of that game up on this channel. Also, I haven't done this at all in this video, so go subscribe to Dxtr Black, Dxtr Blue, Dxtr Gray, join the Discord server, and go check out the merch store as well. All links in the description. In Mac Tonight's 2, we play as Chris, which would reveal that this game takes place both before the events of the first game and before Chris killed his manager. Loading into the first night, the phone call doesn't tell us a whole lot, basically what we already know. Chris took up the job to watch the warehouse where the animatronics are stored, but of course, we know he's just there to destroy them. Let's talk about our tools. This time around, we have 2 sets of cameras, one normal set and another set specifically for the vents. The only threat active on night 1 is Mac, who will walk through your cameras to try to get to your office. This time around, there are 2 entrances, that being 2 doors. Why? Because fuck you! What I really want to focus on was the biggest dick move I've ever seen a game pull before. Let's take a moment to tunnel vision on the only 2 cameras that matter in this game, Camera 2 and Camera 4. Both cameras are the cameras right next to your office doors, and through each you can remotely turn on a safety lock to keep the robots out. Each door has its own power supply. The problem? These power supplies drain fast as fuck. So much so that I was noticing on earlier nights that when Mac would appear on camera 4, that by the time he'd leave, I'd be left with a big chunk of power missing, which led me to believe that the remainder of the nights would be very difficult because no shit, he would be attacking more frequently. Something even cooler? Where does Mac go after camera 4? Camera 2. What's in camera 2? Another fucking entrance to the office. Holy shit, we have to waste even more power. Now pause. If you're familiar with this game, I can already tell you're going to the comments to explain to me how badly I'm not understanding how this mechanic works. And shut up. I know that's not exactly how it works. I like to explain based on my experience, and this is how it went. Turns out, this camera state is not Mac about to open the camera 4 door. He actually has 2 different phases on this camera, attack and no attack. When he's standing like this, away from the door, then you know he's just traveling to camera 2 to attack. He will look like this when it's actually him attacking camera 4's door. So what's the problem? Well, I literally never saw Mac go into his attack camera 4 state until night 3. Excuse me? I don't think that it's my fault for not noticing earlier when my RNG with movements is that dog shit. Holy fuck. But whatever. After learning that, I had no problems with Mac, and we're free to move on to the post-night 1 cutscene. Psych! Guess what? There aren't any. We're just jumping right into night 2. Night 2 drops a fucking bombshell on me and blows up all hope of understanding the lore of this game. It's revealed on this night that the phone guy isn't Chris's boss, as he mentions that the manager at a McDonald's had his throat slit, now establishing that Chris had already killed him. This doesn't make any sense, and it pisses me off. And you'll understand why later when we talk about that very important detail I mentioned earlier, so just bear with me a bit longer. For now, let's go over this night's threats. This night introduces this game's Toy Freddy equivalent, the Hamburglar. And no, not because of his game mechanics, but because he's a fat ass. He is the character to introduce the vent mechanics, exactly how he does in the first game, except this time it's somehow even more worthless. Once he enters your vents, he will appear in any of the 4. When he does, all you have to do is seal the vent he is in until he leaves. Each vent has its own power supply, and these 2 drain very fast. But that doesn't matter because even during this game's most difficult canon night, you will hardly ever be attacked. The phone guy mentions that only one vent can be sealed at a time, but fun fact, that's actually just not fucking true at all because you can seal all of them at the same time if you really wanted to, so that's cool. Night 3 introduces one new threat, but before we can talk about that, we need to talk about the headache that is this night's phone call. During this call, the phone guy tells us that Mac's box was moved and looks like it had been opened. Of course, that makes sense because we watched him walk around the building. All good. Whatever. However, he also mentions the progress the police have made on the murder of Chris's manager. They found out he was a former employee and that he was spotted running out of the building wearing a mask and a McDonald's uniform. Pause, please. My brain can only take so much stupidity at a time. So, what this tells us is that at the time Chris killed his manager, he wasn't working at the McDonald's because they referred to him as a former employee. That doesn't make sense because during the Night 3 cutscene in the first game, when Chris enters his manager's office to kill him, his manager mentions that there's nothing he can do to help. So we know he was working there. Maybe that was a mistake and he wasn't working there, or maybe this is a mistake and they shouldn't have said former employee. But let's just say this game is correct and he was a former employee. Why the fuck was he wearing a McDonald's uniform if he didn't even work there? This story doesn't make any fucking sense and nothing lines up. No, this is not a case of the game being mysterious and, ooh, it's our job as theorist hunters to piece it together. Fuck you. This is just bad writing, like really fucking bad writing. We still haven't even gotten the real bombshell yet, the very important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. But before we can get to it, we have to talk about tonight's threat, Birdie. Birdie did something unique in the last game. What about this one? Nope, she's just a hamburglar. Enters vents, seal them, that's it. Moving on. Night 4 somehow manages to make even less sense than ever before. We're told that Birdie had gotten damaged, like a crowbar was smashed into her face. Okay, so we know that at this point, Chris had already begun breaking the animatronics. Cool. Now, here's the stupid part. We're told that the police are obviously still investigating the murder. They questioned all the current employees about the incident, and the phone guy tells us, no joke, that they put the employees who were suspects through a lie detector. Fuck the fact that lie detectors can be notoriously inaccurate. Let's talk about the fact that they know it's a former employee. Ding, 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 former. So why the fuck are the current employees suspects? That doesn't even make any fucking sense why they would suspect a current employee of being the murderer when they know it was a former employee. Sure, the guy was wearing a uniform, but they've already established that he was a former employee, aka not a fucking employee anymore. Am I overreacting? Does this story actually make perfect sense and I'm just retarded? I don't think it does. Anyways, the threat on this night is Mayor McCheese. He's just Mac. Goes to the door, close it, what the fuck ever. I know you guys are just interested in this story at this point and how retarded it is. Night 5 phone call. Let's go over it. Mayor McCheese was damaged, obviously our doing. We're told that today is our last night, yet for some reason we're told that we can come in tomorrow if we really want to. Why? I literally have no idea. And the phone guy literally offers no good explanation whatsoever. It's clear that at this point, the phone guy thinks we're not doing our job well. And to be fair, we really aren't, so that makes sense. Really nothing important in this call, so let's just go over the final threat in this game, Grimace. Grimace, surprisingly, does something different than the other characters. He acts sort of like a phantom balloon bitch from Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He will slowly leave his box, and when he does, he'll appear on a camera. If you see him, close the cameras and he'll reset to his box. If you don't do it fast enough, he'll force your cameras to reboot, which will take a while, so like, just close the cameras. Who gives a fuck? Let's just talk about this stupid fucking story and the stupid fucking important detail I've been teasing for the last half hour. During the Night 6 phone call, it's revealed that the phone guy checked the cameras of the warehouse and saw Chris breaking the animatronics, specifically Grimace. He tells us that we need to get out, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know, no shit, he's pissed, and rightfully so. But hold up. Did you hear what I just said? He checked the cameras and saw us. Doesn't that sound familiar? Oh yeah, it does. Why, you ask? Well, this little tidbit is that super important detail I've been talking about throughout this video. Towards the end of Mac Tonight 1, during the final cutscene, we hear Chris's manager mentioning that the robots are being damaged and that he needs to check the cameras. This would tell me that this exact moment is what he was talking about then. But here's the crazy part. All of that would add up perfectly fine if it wasn't confirmed that the phone guy in the second game wasn't the fucking manager, because he said the manager was already dead. So who the fuck is this guy? And why did the manager say he needed to check the cameras of the warehouse at the end of the first game? This story literally makes no fucking sense whatsoever. There was no thought put into it. I can't piece any of it together because each piece of the fucking puzzle is from a different goddamn box. What the fuck do you expect from me, game? I finally get confident enough to talk about the stories of the games I play in my videos, and then I'm hit with this fucking bullshit. I've spent hours upon hours trying to figure this shit out to find out it's been completely fucking broken from the start. The gears in my brain are turning so fast, I think the whole engine altogether is gonna fucking explode. Thank God I got that out of my system. But that's all Five Nights with Mac Tonight's has to offer. Yes, by the way, before you say anything, I know that there is a third game, but fuck you. It's confirmed to not be canon, so I don't give a fuck about it. This series was an experience I would be okay with never going through again. It wasn't nearly as soul-sucking as Jolly, however, it was definitely enough to cut several years off my lifespan. From horrific gameplay to the worst story I've ever seen in my life, Mac Tonight's truly doesn't have it all. But let me know what you think. Do you agree with me, or do you think Mac Tonight's is the greatest OG fan game of all time? Let me know in the comments below. In my Banshee video, I asked you guys what made you get into Five Nights at Freddy's, and my favorite answer was every comment mentioning Markiplier, because that was about 95% of the answers to that question. I should have really assumed that. The question of this video is, what FNAF game do you think has the best story and why? With the question of the video being asked, subscribe to the channels. I'd appreciate it a lot. I've been Dexter, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!